Cabinet expanded again as interim government crosses halfway mark. 4 new ministers sworn in. Election Commission sets process to determine proportional representation percentages. Committee to calculate inclusive quotas using 2078 census data. The US dollar hits an all-time high against the Nepali rupee. Indian rupee also falls to an all-time low as selling pressures continue to mount. Informal workers in Nepal continue to lack social security despite legal mandates. Workers, mostly women, contribute over 40% of GDP. Thailand dissolves in parliament amid border clashes with Cambodia. Prime Minister Anutin calls early election as violence and flooding expose government struggles. And Nepali boxer Thapa Magar makes history by winning a bronze medal in the 54 kg weight category in IBA Men's World Boxing Championships. I am April Singh Lama and this is NTV World Primetime News coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours. Across the globe, it's 1:15 p.m. in London, 10:15 p.m. in Tokyo and just after midnight in Sydney. Now, the news in details. Nepal's interim government, already halfway through its tenure before transferring power to an elected administration, has once again expanded its cabinet. 4 new ministers have been inducted in the existing cabinet, taking the number of members to 14. This is the 4th time the cabinet has been reshuffled to the government that was born out of anti-corruption movement in the country. Before this, the government was expanded on September 15, September 22 and October 26. The new ministers that were sworn in today are Kumar Singh, Income Minister for Land Management, Cooperative and Poverty Alleviation, Rajendra Singh Bhandari as Minister for Labour, Employment and Social Security, Madhav Chaulagai as Minister for Forest and Environment, and Shraddha Shrestha as Minister for Women, Children and Senior Citizens. President Ramchandra Paudel administered the oath to the newly appointed ministers amidst a function at the office of the President in Sheetal Niwas. We now speak with Gen Z activist Majid Ansari to understand what the latest cabinet expansion means for a government that came to power on an anti-corruption mandate. Hello, Mr. Ansari, can you hear me? Mr. Ansari, welcome to NTV World.
Thank you for inviting.
Okay, so without further ado, I would like to ask you a few questions. So this interim government was formed on the mandate of the Gen Z anti-corruption movement. Now, with the cabinet now expanded for the 4th time, how do you view these repeated reshuffles? Do they strengthen or dilute the spirit of the movement?
I see it as a very ordinary incident of a state what should it be doing. The government expansion and appointment of minister is one of the essential for handling this crisis with caution. This needed to be done earlier, but government delayed it for around 3 months. I don't know the reason behind it. And still, there are 2 ministries which are still vacant.
Right.
Still under the leadership of Prime Minister. 2 sensitive ministries. One is Foreign Ministry and another is Defense Ministry. However, a government led by a woman in the cabinet of 14 ministers, there are only 3 ministers. There are only 3 women ministers. It has not been able to include any of the Muslims within the cabinet. You cannot see any Haru face within the cabinet. So it lacks to a certain extent the spirit of inclusive governance that we were seeking when we were on the street
Right.
on the
So,
day of Gen
but
Z
the
revolution.
government is already halfway through its tenure and is expected to focus on corruption control and preparing for elections,
Yeah,
right? So, is the
yeah.
move as part of the commitments made in the agreement between the government and the Gen Z on Wednesday?
Um, there are two considerations. First one is those agendas and those issues which are needed to be focused before the election or during the election or after the election. Election has nothing to do with that. The basic function of the government or the basic function of the government mechanisms such as CIA, which is responsible for investigating the corruption related cases. We have Central Investigation Bureau. This needs to show some rapid work in their action.
Right.
They have been very slow. They are unable to, or they are afraid of taking some of the needed actions against the corruption, especially against those corrupted leaders who are in the leadership role of the political parties. The government might have fear about the assurance of elections taking place. So they might be afraid that if we arrest them or if we prosecute them in the cases relating to corruption before the occurrence of election.
Right. So,
But what I think that
like yourself, many young people fear that these political appointments are overshadowing core priorities like transparency, budget discipline, and election readiness. So, from your perspective, what should the government be doing right now to stay accountable to the Gen Z mandate?
the government needs to show some of the political morality and constitutional morality. That is one of the basic prerequisite of our political system. The government doesn't need to do something very extra that is demanded by the Gen Z. What simply the Gen Zs are demanding that prosecute, investigate those who are responsible of human rights violation on the 8th of September, state abuse of authority, those who fired guns against those who were unarmed, against the innocent Gen Zs, against the innocent school uniform students. And what we want is the very basic function of the state, that is to control the abuse of power. That is to control the corruption, or that is to investigate and prosecute and punish those involved in the corruption, those involved in the abuse of authority, those involved in abuse of power. So what we expect is government do their general work, government do their work which are prescribed by the prevailing laws, which are prescribed by the Corruption Control Act. Government does not need to focus on the election. Election will take place. Government does not need to fear about whether or not the election is going to happen. We have already overthrown those who were in the power, and sooner or later the election will take place. There is no alternative of election. We are not letting those who have been thrown out of the power.
Right.
So the government needs to focus on basic essential service delivery. Government needs to focus on easing the administration. Government needs to focus on e-governance.
Of course.
Government needs to focus on making those offices within the authority of the state or within the authority of the government to be corruption free. Government need to make bureaucracy more accountable to us, the citizens.
Okay.
We can still see the instances of corruption in many government offices, including the courts.
Right. So before we wrap up,
so the kind of governance or grievance.
Okay, Mr. Ansari, before we let you go, this is the interim government which has, since its first day in office, has said it will hand over power to the elected government and with repeated expansion of the cabinet. So don't you think that the government is drifting away from its key mandates? Or how is it?
I think focusing too much attention to the assurance of election is what there is problem within the government. Government, in the name of assurance of election, is letting many abuse of power or many instances of corruption go away from the hands of the law or from the hands of the law enforcement agencies. What we expect is participation within the government of the Gen Zs. It does not necessarily require appointment of ministers. What we need is advisory councils. What we need is prompt grievances settlement mechanism. What we need is reform in bureaucracy.
Okay.
What we need is prompt action against those who are allegedly involved in corruption-related acts. So overall, what we say is those justifications which were made on the basis of regulations made by the then ministers, promulgated by the Council of Ministers, those needs to be reviewed by the Council of Ministers. They need to be revised. They need to be amended. And the current Council of Ministers can adopt many regulations. It does not require Parliament to adopt those regulations to ease the government functions, to ease the public offices, to ease the access to justice and ease the access to public offices, simply.
Okay, thank you for your time, Mr. Ansari. Thank you so much for joining us. So, moving on to the news, Nepal's Election Commission has put forward a process for determining percentage towards proportional representation based on demographic composition. As per the arrangement specified in the House of Representatives member electoral constituency, the percentage is being determined for Dalit, indigenous nationalities, Khas Arya, Madesi, Tharu and Muslim groups. A committee has been formed under the coordination of Subhas Kumar Bhattarai, Under Secretary of the Ministry of Law, Justice and Parliamentary Affairs, with representatives from the Election Commission, the Ministry of Federal Affairs and General Administration, and the National Statistics Office. EC spokesperson Narayan Prasad Bhattarai said the committee has been tasked with determining the inclusive basis percentage based on the national census and submitting a report within 3 days. The Commission is preparing to determine the percentage based on the population according to the National Census 2078 BS. Meanwhile, the Armed Police Force Nepal is preparing to operate in coordination with other security agencies to ensure that the upcoming House of Representatives election is conducted in a transparent, fair and fear-free environment. In the press conference held at the APF Nepal headquarters at local Halchuk today, APF spokesperson DIG Manish Thapa stated that based on security challenges, constituencies would be classified as highly sensitive and normal, and responsibilities would be assigned accordingly. The Armed Police Force will be deployed in the second layer of security for election security and will operate in coordination with other security bodies. For supervision, coordination and facilitation on matters related to security election, a central election cell will be established at the Armed Police Force headquarters, an Armed Force election cell at each bridge headquarters, and an election cell in each battalion company with operational responsibility in the district. APF Nepal says it has adopted a policy to curb anti-election and criminal activities, share election-related security information, and operate in a coordinated manner, especially in border areas with support. Now, several speakers at a youth gathering in Kathmandu declared their clear support for leadership change and youth-led restructuring within the CPN-UML, stressing that without such renewal, the party cannot regain public trust or help the country move forward. As the party prepares for its 11th General Convention beginning tomorrow in Sallaghari, Bhaktapur, a faction aligned with General Secretary Ishwar Pokhrel has pushed leadership change to the top of the agenda. UML Vice Chair Surendra Pandey, speaking at the event, said the trend of one-person domination must end, noting that internal rules prohibit a single leader from serving more than 2 terms, a provision repeatedly violated in the past. Speakers also emphasized the need to end manipulation, internal bargains and misinformation campaigns that allow centralized control. They proposed that at least 20% of the new Central Committee be composed of youth representatives. This reflects the post-Gen Z movement political climate and the push for transparent and accountable leadership. Now we'll take a short break here. More news coming up. Welcome back. The US dollar has hit an all-time high against the Nepali rupee, according to the latest rates from Nepal Rashtra Bank, the country's central bank. The central bank fixed the buying rate at 144.30 rupees and the selling rate at 144.90 rupees per US dollar, reflecting rising demand for foreign currency in Nepal. Other major currencies have also strengthened, with the euro at 169.09 or 169.79 rupees, the UK pound at 193.12 or 193.92 rupees, and the Swiss franc at 181.18 or 181.93 rupees for buying and selling respectively. Asian and Pacific currencies, including the Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, Singapore dollar, Japanese yen, and Chinese yuan, also showed notable gains. The rise in foreign exchange rates comes as Indian rupee, against which the Nepali rupee's exchange rate has been pegged with, weakened against the US dollars. Meanwhile, with the US dollar rate all-time high record against Nepali rupee, the Indian rupee has also fallen to an all-time low, hitting new lows on February 12, 2025, as selling pressures continue to mount. Now, while Nepal's laws mandate inclusion of informal workers in the Social Security Fund, surveys show most remain outside the system. Despite contributing over 40% to Nepal's GDP, informal workers, most of them women, continue to work without basic protections or the social security guaranteed by law. Bijeta Bhandari brings more.
Informal economy workers in Nepal were legally mandated to be included in the Social Security Fund. But for most, and especially women, this promise remains out of reach. Informal economy workers include those not included in government data and earning a living by working in non-organized sectors like domestic help, agriculture, construction, waste management, among others. Across Nepal, the backbone of the informal economy is held up by women. Nepal's informal economy is estimated to contribute about 2.2 trillion rupees annually, roughly 42.66% of the country's total GDP, as per the independent data published in the joint survey conducted by Nepal Rashtra Bank and Central Department of Economics at the Tribhuvan University. According to the latest census, 65.5% of the population aged above 10 is economically active, and of this group, 84.6% are are engaged in informal labor. Among the economically active, 72% of men are active in the labor force, while 60.4% of women are active. Women are disproportionately present in informal work. A household survey conducted by Action Aid Nepal covering 3,758 women informal workers reveals deep-seated inequalities. In that survey, 6.26% of women reported not receiving the wages they were promised, and 90.45% said they were paid less than the legal minimum wage. More than 53.62% said they earned less than men for the same work, and 97.90% did not know what the legal minimum wage even was.
काम चाहिँ म निर्माणमा काम गर्छु, यस्तै घरको काम गर्छु म, अनि हामी जोखिममा पर्छौं है, धेरै जसो हामी जोखिममै पर्छौं कि मेरो चाहना चाहिँ के भने अब काम गर्दाखेरि हाम्रो जतिखेर नि अब सिलमन्टीको काम गर्छौं हैन हामीले अब हामीलाई त पन्जा चाहिन्छ हैन, पन्जा चाहिन्छ, जुत्ता चाहिन्छ, टाउकोमा चोट लाग्छ, हेलमेट पनि चाहिन्छ हामीलाई, अनि त्यसको उपचारको लागि हामीलाई खर्च चाहिन्छ। अब कहाँबाट मिलाइदिनुहुन्छ अब हैन, नगरपालिकाबाट मिलाउँछ कि अब कताबाट मिलाउँछ, हामीलाई त दुर्घटनामा परेको, चोट पटक लागेको, अब हामीलाई त चाहियो नि त, बालबच्चा छ हैन, तिनीहरुलाई पनि पाल्न पर्यो।
Ensuring fair wages, legal awareness and social security for informal women workers is not just a matter of justice. With over 40% of GDP tied to informal labor, protecting these workers would secure livelihoods, reduce inequality, and unlock the full potential of the nation's workforce. It is high time the government enforced mandatory implementation of the Social Security scheme for the informal economy workers. Bijeta Bhandari with camera person Rasila Shrestha reporting for NTV World.
The Nagdunga-Maliku road section, which was being partially closed for 5 hours daily for upgradation works, has been opened for Friday and Saturday. The road stretch will remain opened with no mobility restriction in keeping with the inaugural session of the 11th National Congress of the CPN-UML. It may be noted that the Nagdunga-Mugling Road project had been working on the section since last December 10 by partially closing the road. The project has shared the information that the road section would not be closed for 2 days. Chief of the Nagdunga-Mugling Road Project Eastern Section, Kesab Prasad Ojha, informed that after this, the road upgradation works would continue by closing the road operations during the stated time as per the previous schedule. In Nepal's central western hills, Tansen has taken a crucial step to strengthen local economy contributing country's economy. It has now promised ensuring market access for industries based on agriculture, livestock and tourism. The program is growth-oriented entrepreneurship and employment promotion program aimed at supporting micro and small enterprises.
In Nepal's central western hills, Tansen municipality, a historic hill station, is taking a bold step to strengthen Nepal's local economy. A new initiative is now ensuring market access for industries based on agriculture and tourism. The municipality has launched the growth-oriented entrepreneurship and employment promotion program aimed at supporting micro and small enterprises. With the financial backing and technical guidance from Tansen municipality and stakeholders, this program plans to enhance 40 local enterprises, boosting their contribution to the region's economic growth. The initiative spans all 14 wards of the municipality, focusing on enterprises rooted in agriculture and livestock, herbal and forest product, tourism, traditional craft like dhaka and korwa, and service-oriented businesses. To make this possible, the municipality has prepared necessary laws, regulations, and implementation of guidelines. Tansen municipality has allocated 5 million rupees to support this employment promotion program, providing a solid foundation for local enterprises to grow, innovate, and connect the broader market. With a strategic investment, technical support, and a vision for growth, Tansen municipality is paving the way for a stronger, more self-reliant local economy where local talent and enterprise can thrive on a national and global stage.
International news coming up next. For now, a short break. You're watching NTV World. Welcome back to Primetime News. Now, then, Thailand has dissolved parliament after nearly a week of fresh clashes along its border with Cambodia, with a general election to be called within 45 to 60 days. In a royal reserve published today, Prime Minister Anutin Charnvirakul cited the deadly border dispute among other challenges his minority government has struggled to contain since it took office 3 months ago. Anutin, a business tycoon, is Thailand's third prime minister since August 2023. When he took power in September, he said he would dissolve parliament by the end of January. However, now facing an imminent vote of no confidence, Anutin brought the election forward. Anutin and his Phumjaitai party were heavily criticized for the handling of serious flooding in southern Thailand last month, which left at least 176 people dead. The House's dissolution comes during renewed fighting with Cambodia, which has killed at least 20 people and displaced hundreds of thousands. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump's proposed peace plan for Gaza is facing significant hurdles as both Israel and Hamas confront difficult strategic choices. The plan aimed at resolving the long-running Israeli-Palestinian conflict has struggled to move forward due to deep-seated mistrust between the parties and skepticism from regional stakeholders. Israeli officials have raised security concerns, while Hamas leaders have rejected elements of the proposal that they see as undermining Palestinian sovereignty. International actors, including the United States, Egypt, and Qatar, continue to monitor developments, but progress remains slow. More international news after this short break here on NTV World Primetime News. The World Health Organization, WHO, has released a new analysis confirming that vaccines do not cause autism, directly countering misinformation circulating in the United States. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said this is the fourth comprehensive review, following earlier assessments in 2002, 2004, and 2012.
Committee on Vaccine Safety that has found, based on available evidence, no causal link between vaccines and autism. It looked at 31 studies in multiple countries over 15 years relating to vaccines containing thimerosal, and aluminum adjuvants, and the association between vaccines and autism in general. The committee concluded that the evidence shows no link between vaccines and autism, including vaccines containing aluminum or thimerosal. The fourth such review of the evidence, following similar reviews in 2002, 2004, and 2012, all reached the same conclusion: vaccines do not cause autism. 25 years, under 5 mortality has dropped by more than half, from 11 million deaths a year to 4.8 million. and vaccines are the major reason for that. Vaccines are among the most powerful, transformative inventions in the history of humankind. Vaccines save lives from about 30 different diseases, including measles, cervical cancer, malaria, and more. Like all medical products, vaccines can cause side effects, which WHO monitors, but autism is not a side effect of vaccines. In 1998, a study was published in The Lancet that purported to show a link between vaccines and autism spectrum disorders.
Cyclone Senyar, which struck North Sumatra on 25th of November, has caused widespread destruction in the forests of Batang Toru, home to the critically endangered Tapanuli orangutans. Conservationists say the storm may have killed several of the world's rarest apes. Humanitarian teams discovered the carcass of an orangutan partially buried in mud and logs in Pulapakat village, central Tapanuli district. The discovery has heightened fears that some animals were unable to escape the cyclone's floods and landslides. Time for sports update. Now, Nepali boxer Chandra Bahadur Thapa Mogar made history by winning a bronze medal in the 54 kg weight category in the ongoing IBA Men's World Boxing Championships in Dubai. He was defeated 5-0 by his opponent from Kazakhstan in the semi-final. Thapa has received $74,000 as a prize. Chandra defeated Bastar Masihor Yogune Holi of Indonesia 5-0 in round 32, David Yogorian of Armenia 5-0 in round 16, and Mehdi Kazemi of Iran 5-0 in the quarterfinals to enter the semi-finals. Nepali para-table tennis player Srikrit Nupane has won a silver medal at the Asian Youth Para Games currently underway in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Nupane secured the medal in the under-23 men's singles class 7 category. In the final match held on Thursday, he was defeated 3-2 by Ren Ting Huang of Chinese Taipei, narrowly missing out on the gold. Nupane won the first set 13-11 and the third set 12-10, but lost the second set 11-6, the fourth set 11-5, and the deciding fifth set 12-10. In the women's category, Nirmala Bhandari represented Nepal in table tennis, though she did not secure a medal. Moving on, football's leading fan groups have urged FIFA to halt ticket sales for the 2026 World Cup. They have warned that prices reaching nearly $9,000 for premium final seats are shutting out ordinary supporters. Football supporters Europe condemned the extortionate rates, noting they are up to 7 times higher than in Qatar 2022. Price lists shared by Germany, England and Croatia show fans attending all matches could pay at least $6,900. The outcry comes as FIFA launches its third ticket sale phase, introducing variable pricing for group stage games without explaining how attractiveness is determined. Now, before we wrap up, let's take a look into the headlines once again. Cabinet expanded again as interim government crosses halfway mark. 4 new ministers sworn in. Election Commission sets process to determine proportional representation percentages. Committee to calculate inclusive quotas using 2078 census data. The US dollar hits an all-time high against the Nepali rupee. Indian rupee also falls to an all-time low as selling pressure continues to mount. Informal workers in Nepal continue to lack social security despite legal mandates. Workers, mostly women, contribute over 40% of GDP. Thailand dissolves parliament amid border clashes with Cambodia. Prime Minister Anutin calls early election as violence and flooding expose government struggles. And Nepali boxer Thapa Magar makes history by winning a bronze medal in IBA Men's World Boxing Championships. That is all for NTV World Primetime News for now. Our next bulletin will be at 2200 hours Nepal time. Do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website www.nepaltelevision.com. This is April Gising Lama. Thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu, Public Service Broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World, facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal.
Telling stories that endure across centuries. Where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World.
Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands.
Reporting for Public Service Broadcasting.
Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
Since childhood, I always liked to go in a competition. Even I was in a high school. I done many competition in athletics or other things, and then I end up with MasterChef. I was winner of rematch in 2020 MasterChef UK Professionals. My all-time favorite, and I think all Nepali favorite, is goat curry and rice, masu bhat. I'm from Karjanaha village, district Siraha. When I was very small kid, I started working for a family, and same time I was studying as well. When I was 5 years old, my father passed away. When I was very young age, for us, food was survival food. Till SLC, I was in village, and then I went to India for work purpose, and then I started working in a 5-star hotel as a kitchen porter. Then I find my passion about the cooking, because I was seeing the chef, very nice, tidy, white jacket with a white hat, and then I decided I want to disguise, and I became a chef in a few months, and then working almost 7 years, and then I continue my study as well, and after 7 years I become an executive chef in a 5-star hotel. In a MasterChef, I was cooking only Nepali food and introducing Nepali food, Nepali spices and Nepali technique, because Nepali food was never discovered to the world, and Nepal have a very good potential. The people never expected gundruk to be like this, and even wachipa, pite, burning feathers, chicken feathers, and marinating in chicken and cooking with rice. Also, padam chal, that's a Himalayan rhubarb. This kind of things I cook in the MasterChef. I have also written a book called Ayla, A-Y-L-A, Ayla book. That's a recipe cookbook. During the MasterChef, I started Nepali cuisine. Before, I was working in a Michelin star, French Michelin star, Indian Michelin star restaurant. That was not my Nepali cuisine, was not my cuisine. But now I can say proudly, Nepali cuisine is my cuisine. Still, I am promoting Nepali food, ethnic cuisine, cultural cuisine. Like if you see, we are in a Mithila Thali fish house. Mithila cuisine is very close to my heart. That reflects Tarai region food to the world, and this food was never promoted as well. And opening a Mithila restaurant and promoting Mithila cuisine. Mithila cuisine is very healthy. Mithila food have fermentation, freshness, seasonal vegetables, seasonal cookings. So lots of things came into Mithila cuisine. So I think world should know about this cuisine. I really want to serve Nepal via food. This is the third year I'm doing Nepali cuisine restaurant in Nepal, and almost 200 people working for me. If you want to be a chef, if you are confused to decide, I think this is the right time to do it. And if you are studying in abroad, I think Nepal have a very good potential for the business in a hospitality industry, because Nepal is a tourism-based country, and tourism always need a good hospitality, good restaurant, good food, and good hotel. Now I'm dreaming with the open eyes. I want a Michelin star chef with Nepali food. Then any part of the world, I will be opening Michelin star Nepali restaurant.
I came from Biratnagar, and am at a global stage on data and AI and finance. So I was born and brought up in a city called Biratnagar in the eastern part of Nepal. I was brought up in a typical middle-class Nepali family. I went to school in a normal Nepali school. I studied there until SLC in Biratnagar. As for my higher education, I did my undergrad in Australia. I went over to study quant finance at New York University. I did Masters in Financial Engineering. When I remember my childhood, I used to like sports. Cricket was my thing. And I always liked numbers, patterns, logic. When I found quant finance, it kind of was a formalization of most of my interests that I had as a kid. I was recognized as a change maker. All I did was used mathematics and advanced computational sciences to create mathematical models to predict investments and risk, etc. There's nothing like that being done widely in the industry. As you see, it's a very recent phenomenon. That's how I kind of got into this spot of being recognized as the top 100 influential figures in AI. I remember this song, Hatne Hoina Dati Ladne, right? And that kind of is the embodiment of us. Nepal taught me to lead during scarcity. Nepal taught me to asset allocate when resources are limited, to innovate, right? For me, getting this recognition or being, global stage, it just gives me a bigger microphone. And what I probably would plan to do, or what I am always kind of striving to do, is use that bigger microphone to convey the message on what could be the possibility for tomorrow. I just am a medium for a lot of people here who have already been doing this thing for a long time. Nepal does not lack intelligence. Our bottleneck is not we don't know how to do things. Our bottleneck is infrastructure and policy framework. These are two things, and if we solve this, I think market is going to take its turn and you will see proliferation. Don't stop dreaming. That would be my first thing. Dream big. If you are persistent on what you want, and if you have clarity of thought and logic, you will achieve it.
I think like any other young people, usually in Nepal, the jobs were the primary intention of many youth coming out of education system. So even my family and my friends, they thought that I'm going to take a job. Starting something out in Nepal where the entrepreneurial ecosystem is pretty young, and it's very difficult in terms of many ways, like finding the funding, finding the suppliers, navigating the government offices. It's pretty difficult. And I think one of the most difficult things was to try to do something that no one has ever done before. So running an education organization that does research and also does manufacturing. So there was a lot of learning curve and a lot of failures in the path. My name is Pavitra Bahadur Pratham. By education, I'm an electronics and communication engineer. I worked in robotics for a couple of years. I always had this curiosity of building things, trying things out. I always had this experimental mindset, and that took me closer to starting Karkhana along with my co-founders. So Karkhana acts as multiple entities and ideas at the same time. So we are a research organization, work with national and international universities to do research on pedagogy, lesson plan design. We actually also work as an innovation space where we design these materials that can actually be taken inside the classroom to make science slightly more fun, slightly more experiential. But we also act as a manufacturing space where we manufacture these materials and make sure these materials reach into the classroom. But they're not only reaching the classroom as just material, but we also train the teachers, support them to convert their regular classroom into more of a like a classroom of a discovery. And we actually align all of these activities in the curriculum side. So it helps students study their science from the national curriculum side, but it teaches them in a far more experiential format. We started Karkhana as a makerspace, as an innovation center, but slowly we realized that it's not the space that's required for innovation, but it's the mindset that's required for innovation. And we actually wanted to work on building the culture of experimentation in Nepal. Currently, we're working with 250 schools all across Nepal in more than 35 districts altogether, currently impacting around 1,500 classrooms where more than 42,000 children learn science in a more hands-on, experiential way, where they're not only learning science as a subject, but they're learning science as a mindset. So we usually find chemistry to be one of the most difficult subjects, right? So for example, when we're studying in school, so we have learned about atoms and how atoms are formed. We know that neutron, proton are in the center, the electrons are in the circle, like they are in orbits. So we actually give students this kind of model where they actually form atomic models. And they can actually form hydrogen, helium, lithium, and iron. So they can form different atoms, but not only that, they can also understand how 3D structures of these atoms are like maintained, so they can actually build these things out in the classroom, and they can actually compare these models with each other, and it's a lot of fun. Being inside a country like Nepal and being affected with things like earthquake, instability in the government, unstable education policies and policy at large, being affected with issues like COVID, blockade. So I think navigating all these things in a country that is developing its entrepreneurial ecosystem and trying to sustain the business in this kind of environment, I think you're largely firefighting every day. I hope to take this idea beyond Nepal as well over the course of the years. I think it's very viable in places in South Asia because we share a very similar socio-economic conditions where the science is still taught as a history lesson, as a subject that is needed to be learned to get done with the exams. So I think I want to challenge that idea that science is just a subject, but it's more of a mindset, it's a lifestyle, and when you adopt that kind of scientific thinking in your life, I think the life gets much experimental. Pretty excited about this idea that we might be able to solve problems not in the classrooms of Nepal, but also beyond Nepal, exploring places like Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, where we think that we can make an impact, and in places like Darjeeling, Sikkim, where we might go out and use Nepali language to reach and work as well. Education is a very old process. Being progressive also does not mean being anti-traditional. So trying to blend what has worked in the past, but also trying to integrate what is there in the future. So we're trying to make sure that the learning is fun, impactful, and relevant as well.
In the natural splendor, the silver-like peaks or the Himalayas glisten. cradling a pond filled with milk in its lap. The Numbur Himal gleams. The Dudkunda, meaning a milk pond in Nepal's northeastern district of Solukhumbu, is truly the gateway to the paradise. The Numbur, Khatang and Karyalung mountains seem to smile at all times. Adorned with a garland of colorful flowers, the Dudkunda is overflowing as if filled with milk. The very sight defines nature at its best. Feels as if the Numbur mountain is giving motherly affection, holding the lake in its lap. The beauty is so serene and virgin that one fears not to stain it by touching. Indeed, Dudkunda is nature at its purest form. Located at Solu Dudkunda municipality, Taksindu, the natural paradise draws many visitors. No matter how many words are spent describing it, they all feel inadequate upon reaching there. The name itself is fulfilling and equally sacred.
हजारौं नरनारीहरू चाहिँ तीर्थयात्रीहरू दुधकुण्डमा जानुभएको छ। म पनि पुगेर आएँ। दुधकुण्ड असाध्यै पवित्र स्थल, यो हिमाल काखमा रहेको तीर्थस्थल हो, पुण्यस्थल हो, देवस्थल हो र त्यहाँ चाहिँ एकचोटि पुग्नै पर्दो रहेछ। त्यहाँ पुगेर जुन आनन्दको अनुभूति हुन्छ त्यो चाहिँ कहीँ पनि पाइँदैन भन्ने चाहिँ महसुस भयो।
आनन्द लाग्यो, भएन मस्त लाग्यो। अनि यो ठाउँमा चाहिँ आएर तपस्या गरेर बस्नु जस्तो लाग्यो मलाई।
एकदमै राम्रो लाग्यो हैन, प्रकृतिले दिएको रमणीय तीर्थस्थल हैन, जो कोही पनि एकचोटि चाहिँ यहाँ आएर एकचोटि भ्रमण गरेर दर्शन गर्नुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्यो।
Situated at an altitude of 4,531 meters above the sea level, Dudkunda is a sacred pilgrimage site of culture and nature. It feels like nature has blessed this place, and culturally it has bound all castes and ethnicities in a thread of unity. There are various legends and sayings about Dudkunda. One argument is that the pond was formed during the creation of the Himalayas and was discovered by local sheep and yak herders. According to another legend, in ancient times, a yak would go to a stone where the pond is located and offer its milk every day. Later, the place was found to be a pond filled with milk, leading to its name, Dudkunda. This has also led to the belief that gods and goddesses reside here. There are 3 different routes to reach Dudkunda. One route is through Salleri, Faplu, Taksindu and Sasrabeni. Another route goes via Lukla, the gateway to the Everest, through Nunthala, Taksindu and Sahasrabeni. Nature has truly blessed the Solu Dudkunda municipality. Truly, just like the majestic Mount Everest, Dudkunda has the potential to be the destination for everyone in the days to come. It is a thread of unity among all castes and ethnicities. Just like the holy water of Dudkunda, it will become a pure and excellent destination.
Welcome to NTV World Insight, a space where we explore ideas shaping Nepal's future. On today's episode, it's a pleasure to have with us a remarkable leader whose work sits at the intersection of education, public, health, governance and social transformation. Dr. S.P. Colony is the chairperson of the Association of International NGOs in Nepal and a lifelong educator and advocate for equitable development. His journey spans classrooms, remote health posts, global partnerships, and some of Nepal's most critical policy debates. Dr. Colony, welcome to NTV World Insight.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Your experience and engagement extends through so many sectors. What's keeping you a lot busy these days?
Well, a lot of things. My work at Blink Now Foundation, where we do a lot of education work, providing quality education to the children from the most marginalized communities. My work at AIN, as you said, Association of International NGOs in Nepal, and of course some volunteer work in different non-profit organizations.
You started teaching at a very young age and have since worked in education, health and civil society leadership sector as well. What would you say is the moment that actually profoundly shaped your philosophy in development?
Yeah, very good question. I wouldn't say a moment. There have been moments and also, I think, different experiences of my life. My most profound impact in my life has been from my father. My dad was a very hardworking person. I never saw him sit idle. And he'd always say, you work hard, you can have a good life, and also you can also support other people. And that, I think, had a profound impact in my life to start working as a working professional early on. But then I also lost my father at early age, and to a disease which we could not get diagnosed. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have good healthcare system at that point of time. We had to take him to India, but still he did not survive. And so that was a sad experience in my life. But then I encountered so many such situations with other people. Mm-hmm. But then I also got to learn that the similar situation does not exist in other parts of the world. Mm-hmm. There are many good healthcare facilities. There's a good quality care for people from the health institution to the households. So I said, why not to see what we can do in Nepal? And so I got into education initially, but in healthcare sector. And thankfully, we got to establish some good model of healthcare system in the country. The health institutions that have provided care to many people, 1.5 million people, a good quality care free of cost in the rural setup. So been blessed with all those outcomes, but at the same time, the shaping of life. Mm-hmm. I think there are moments in life, but also it's a journey. Mm-hmm. You get to learn at different stages in your life. Mm-hmm. So I would name my father as someone who has influenced me the most.
Mm-hmm. That definitely sounds like something that fueled your passion towards this sector. And you, on your own place, have done as much as you can. But how do we scale this so that we can make a bigger impact? How have you viewed our overall health sector? There's investment from government as well. I'm not sure if it's adequate or not. What's your observation been so far?
It is certainly not adequate, but I think we've made very good progress in health sector in the last couple of decades. Whether you talk about the maternal mortality rate, reducing infant mortality rate, or even the life expectancy overall has increased. But there's a disproportionate impact in the health of more vulnerable people when it comes to the disease or other kind of epidemic and pandemics that we face. So what we still need to work on is how we can make the health system functional. We've got a very good structure in place. Mm-hmm. From the health institutions at the grassroots level in the community, like primary health centers, municipal hospitals, to the tertiary care hospitals. Our problem is how we make them functional, how we resource them, how we equip them, how we regulate them, how we monitor and evaluate, and how we improve the quality of care. So what we have done is not impossible to do. It is doable, and it is as per the vision of Nepal government. Nepal said that we want to reduce the out-of-pocket expenses, we want to improve the quality of care, and we of course want to make it accessible for every citizen, and that's exactly what we did. And it is doable. So scaling needs a willpower, a strong leadership and governance. But of course, we need to increase the resources. Health sector doesn't have enough resource allocated in this country. If you look at the global data, forget about the outlier like the USA. Even if you take the average number, we are nearly 15% below the average public sector investment in health sector, which means that Nepal needs to increase public sector investment. But also we need to work on making the system functional, which also has the managerial aspects, making supply chain work, and also supply of human resources and so on. So if we can make the existing public system really functional, quality, I think people can access quality care at their nearest place.
In the past few decades, every decade we've witnessed some kind of movement that brought about political transformation. But have we managed to institutionalize those transformation, and have we seen some substantive impact in our socio-cultural setting and our standard of life, standard of education and health overall?
Well, that is, although it sounds a general question, but that's a very deep question, Sarah. I think institutionalization of any change is the most crucial step in leading change. So any change, whether it's organizational, social, or political, unless they are institutionalized, you cannot bear and experience the fruits of change in a sustainable manner. So what happens is, as the change takes place, you will see some of things happening parallelly. One, there will always be resistance to change. There will be actors who have probably benefited from the previous system and would want same kind of status quo. But then change has happened, and it will be difficult for people to accept. And there will be slowness in implementation of any decisions. There will be forces applied to make sure that the change doesn't implement properly. And also there's going to be a situation where the system institutions are not strong enough to actually institutionalize the change. It could be the lack of human resource, it could be lack of skills to institutionalize those changes. And there's always going to be a situation where if there is a change in leadership, and in case of Nepal, frequent change in leadership, then the problem will arise where people may or may not take the full ownership of that change, which then gets into a dangerous situation of whether you are fully actually implementing the aspirations of the change or not. And therefore, I think what is really important is these aspirations are converted into behaviors, and these behaviors are then built into structures, and these structures are enforced and implemented properly. If that does not happen, there's always a risk of backsliding, which is then very unfortunate. But the most important thing and biggest risk is if this does not happen, if the institutionalization doesn't take place, then that can build frustration within the public, and that will then take to any course. You never know.
We are at present in a very vulnerable state. We're heading for an election, and we witnessed a major movement as well just recently with Gen Z protests, which I think we did so in other countries as well. Do you think this is a global phenomenon or just a generational thing that happens between every generation?
Well, there are, with every new generation, there are different kind of aspirations. You talk to the next generation, 10 years younger people than yourself. The whole thinking process pattern, the way you address any challenges you face, they're all different. It's so different. If I talk to my kids, they come up with completely different perspective, right? And at times it is difficult to fathom where did even they think and learn these things from, right? You don't even get to know that, understand it. So I think catching and addressing those generational aspirations is really important. If the leadership is not such far-sighted and capturing and trying to understand and addressing those aspirations of different generation, that can happen. I mean, protests can happen of, based on different reasons, but when we're talking about one particular generation right now, there are certainly aspirations. It may be that, for you and me, something that this new generation is talking about is not as important as, the importance they give to the same thing. Recently, when the social media ban, probably the generation, the older generation, probably did not think that particular demand as important as the Gen Z thought it is. Has it become the part and parcel of life of people? And does it actually completely erode and affect the livelihood of people? So if we do not and cannot understand that, it becomes very difficult. Because even though you and I have willingness to address those, but the importance that we will give would not be as much as they would expect us to be doing, right? And therefore, I think it's really important that these new generations are not only understood and taken as the beneficiaries of what we do, but they are engaged in the conversations and made the partners in the process of finding solutions. I think that's really important. When that thing lacks, the protests like these are bound to happen. We at times fail to understand the kind of wisdom the new generation brings and the kind of different approaches they look at the things and address. So I think it's really important to capture that.
How do you see, considering everything that is happening at present, the scenario unfolding in the next few months or year?
Well, the future is difficult to predict, of course. We hope as the government plans right now, the elections are held, and then the politics takes a new course. And of course, the aspirations the new generation has of accountability, the corruption-free society, these are taken seriously by all the actors, and the new government can address everything that even the current interim government cannot. And so that all the actors become part and parcel of this whole change process and take ownership. So one of the dangers, again, to add to your previous question, when you're leading change, one of the dangers is if the actors in the change process do not feel the ownership of the process that is moving forward, that again becomes dangerous. And therefore, the new generation, the next to Gen Z is going to come soon, right? So if these generations do not feel like we take ownership of what is happening, or we are participating in this whole process, that will create another danger. And therefore, I think it's really important. I hope that moving forward, the generation is going to take part in this whole process and take full ownership of how we move the things, because we need to come out of the emotions and sentiments alone. Of course, that's an important part of human life, but also we need to think about how we resolve the situations. For example, we talk about reduction or what do you call elevation of corruption. How do we do that? We need to come up with the concrete ideas and steps and implement them. And if things are not working, figure them out on a day-to-day basis. We really need to think about providing the solutions. So I hope that the new generation is actually looking at those things, not only expecting some other people to deliver on it and express their frustration, but be part of actually finding solutions, and they actually become those leaders to address the solutions. Whatever way they do, but their participation would really be important, I think.
Just to stretch on what you just said, what would be an ideal step-by-step thing that we could do to make sure all our financial activities of the government and everything is transparent and that we deal with corruption?
Well, when you talk about corruption, it sounds like it's a responsibility of government, right? It is, but that's not absolute answer, right? We are all responsible for creating a corruption-free society. How do we do that? it is easier to question people, question others. I mean, right now you will question people, whoever is in the government, and then tomorrow you're going to question the person, whoever next is in the government. And therefore, I think it is important, as we said earlier, about making change a culture. And how do we create a culture of no corruption? That will need to start from our families, from our institutions, from our communities, and so on. But then if the government does not take initiatives, does not create that kind of infrastructure and policy environment, then for the individuals and communities it becomes difficult. So it needs to be both the ways, but we should also think about it is our collective responsibility, right? It is not going to be, when we say step by step, what may easily come to our mind is, okay, have policy in place, enforce it, right? Have maybe a stronger punishment mechanism, and that's going to work. Of course it will. Well, that needs to happen. But then there's more steps that we need to take if we really want to get into that. So I'll just give you an example of, like, I think it was my first or second Europe visit, I was standing in at a store to buy a cell phone. Not cell phone, but the SIM card.
This is here in Nepal?
No, outside, in Europe, in Finland.
Okay.
So, I was struggling to get that SIM card inserted into the phone. You know, it used to be non-digital at that time. So the shopkeeper actually helped me. It was maybe for a couple of minutes. I was standing there. I didn't even realize that there were like 50 people standing behind me. They were waiting patiently for their turn. And because they didn't make any sound, I didn't even notice there were people behind me. And I felt so ashamed that I was blocking them, getting my thing done. But then I also felt like, you know, if it was in my community, maybe people would be shouting and pushing and, you know, trying to get and grab and like. So, of course, you expect that the government makes and creates those rules and mechanisms. But unless I have my discipline of, you know, performing, acting accordingly, my life becomes like that. Enforcement of law alone doesn't change, right? So I think it has to be both the ways. Of course, government will need to take very strong initiatives to control, but also we need to look at it from our individual and institutional perspectives.
Like they say, change starts from yourself.
Exactly. Yep, true.
Now, let's take a look at our education sector. There's clearly a divide since so many years, in fact, of private education and public education. We're clearly creating two different sorts of human resource. And then it ultimately culminates into sending two types of workforces as well. We're creating workforces, one for the Gulf nations that solely work to make a living, the other to the developed countries who either go there for education, higher education, or skilled jobs. Where are we lagging?
I think in your question, one of the biggest concern that underlines, I think, Sarah, is how do we avoid getting into the generational inequality, right? Which is a very big problem that will happen if we do not address it right now. Which means that you have you have a good wealth, you can afford good schools, your kids can go to good schools and they get better opportunities, and your kids' generation and their kids' generation, in the inequality with the kind of school they can afford and with those who cannot afford, that will continue. This generational inequality, that can cause another kind of conflict in the societies. So it is really important, your question of how do we address that gap. Well, we are in a world where I think you wouldn't be in a position to say that nationalize everything, government should run all the schools, and then so all the private schools are shut down, and that's how you're gonna create equality. I think we've heard those kind of political, social, economic voices also, but that has not translated into reality. So what is the workable solution in that case? It's only that we improve the quality of public schools. It's only through improving the public school system that you can sort of like bridge that gap. What do you need to do? There are a lot of things. Invest in infrastructure, like healthcare we talked about. We need to improve the infrastructure of education. We need to continue to provide support to educators. with this recent change of federalism, there has again been the gap created where the school teachers feel there's lack of support system now than it used to be in the past, which is very unfortunate. So remember, like we had district education office, there were school inspectors that would go and provide support, do the monitoring and evaluation. So during this change process, there has been some gaps, and we have got this basic school system under the local government now. But we really need to empower the local government so that they can provide support and do the monitoring evaluation. If not, then the provinces need to take that role and provide that support to the school. So, like I said, improve infrastructure, also provide the support to the school educators, teachers, where it could be providing them refresher training, or also pedagogical support. How do you better teach the students so that they can learn better? And also a continuous monitoring and evaluation so that if you perform well, you get rewarded. You know, a system of reward and punishment needs to be put in place, and that will help empower and improve our public education system. Then you can have public and private school providing similar quality of education, and you lessen that gap of that we're talking about created by this.
Just a day ago, I had a conversation with World Bank's Division Director, David Sislin, and he mentioned something when I talked about remittance, how we receive a huge chunk of it, but we're not being able to properly utilize it so that we could materialize it into something productive. How do you see this whole thing?
No, I think that I would agree with him. One, we need to think about the people that are sending us the remittance to run this country. How can we actually systematize that, improve that, which means that how can we train people so that the trained human resource goes out, and if they actually need to go out and work outside, which should not be banned, but of course they can actually earn better, contribute better, and give back to the country better. And also then your question of how we better utilize the resource we get from their earning. So I think the revenue that we get through the remittance, it should not only be linked to the development of the country, it should also be linked to the what you call the senders, the remittance senders, their own pride. Right? This is what I have contributed to the country. Do you think any person who is in Gulf country earning money, sending money to this country, feels proud of sending that money here? Maybe he does, because he or she does, because they are able to take care of their families. But it could be converted into a sense where you say that your contribution has helped this country develop so much. We have created this infrastructure, we have created this development initiative. And so you take that ownership. And wherever you are, whichever part of the world you are in, whatever contribution you have made, if you feel like, oh, my contribution is actually, in fact, wherever I am, it is contributing towards development of my country, that would be much better. And so there can be some creative and innovative ways of utilizing that remittance, and also proper communication of how it is being used to those people who are contributing is equally important, I think, so that they can feel proud.
There's so much to do to develop our country, of course, but it feels almost like we are in a state of stagnancy at the moment because of the political changes that have happened recently. How do we go about creating good quality jobs for people so that we can retain the quality human resource?
Well, I think it's a multifaceted approach that we need to take. One, we need to focus on what's available in this country, what can actually be grown. For example, the potential that we have. It could be agriculture, it could be tourism, it could be hydroelectricity, or whatever potential that we have, how we harness that. And any job creation, any innovation, if we can link that with our potential of this country, that's one thing we need to look at. That will help us grow the number of jobs. And second, we need to focus on the training, the kind of training we provide. How can we create and provide the vocational training or technical training so that our production can actually think about, all right, so 1,000 megawatt of electricity produced from this particular river. So entire human resource we do, and we invest, and then we create everything, right? So I think it is important to look at the skill set of individuals, and at the same time we should also look at the potential that we have in this country. A good match of that will really be helpful. And also I think we have an opportunity of Nepali diaspora outside, really skilled people, very smart people, and they could come back and work, they could invest and help. So there's a lot of potential that we can actually work on.
Dr. Koloni, as chair of AIN, you've spoken about regulatory frameworks that risk constraining the civil society. What, in your view, is the ideal balance between accountability and freedom of NGOs in Nepal?
Right. So I think we have to have a balance of two things. One, there has to be high freedom. Another, high accountability. If we put them together, you asked about balance, I think it's a balance of freedom and accountability, and that actually is going to create a healthy civil society. So what does that mean? That means that the civil society organizations are given freedom of association, freedom of expression, freedom of advocacy, freedom of contributing into the legal process or lawmaking process in the country. So all of that. But at the same time, have a space for their self-regulatory mechanism. But at the same time, the organizations are accountable towards their own process, whether it is about auditing system, delivering impact on the areas that they have selected to work in. So if we can create that balance, and the state considers the civil society organizations as partners, thinking that how can we go together and co-create some of the innovative ideas, because civil society organizations have a high potential to generate innovative ideas because they work in a limited space, even though it's an investment of a small resource. But then with the kind of scope of work they have, new innovations can come. So if the state can treat the civil society organizations as the partners, and there is that balance of freedom and accountability, that creates a balanced and prosperous civil society.
Mm-hmm. You've helped advance integrated digital health records in Nepal, especially in rural areas. What is needed, you think, to scale such innovations nationwide within government systems?
Oh yeah, so we need multiple things. For example, you need a strong leadership, you need a vision, you need finances, you need infrastructure, all of these things. But at the same time, in terms of adoption of innovation, there's a lot of literature that talks about innovation adoption takes place in phases. There are people who innovate, right? So they own and they adopt it well. And there are people who will quickly adopt the innovation and new ideas, new technology, and will start utilizing it. Mm-hmm. There are, they call early majority. There will be people following that. There are late majority people who will come slowly to adopt it. And there are laggards, people who need to be dragged along, right? So whenever we talk about innovation, there are going to be different kinds of people. We need to bear that in mind. But at the same time, that's also a change process, like we spoke earlier about political change or other. So in any innovation, that's a change process. So how do you create a sense of urgency that we need this particular new technology? When we did Nepal EHR, so of course, there was a lot of resistance, you can imagine. Of course, there was a support from the government side that we need to do, but there was not enough resource. We were able to put that together. And then there's a human aspect of, as I said, how do you adopt innovation? So you need to change behavior. If you are a person, you like technology, still if you are used to it, writing on the paper, it's going to take time for you to start, typing on the computer. So how do you bring those people on board? For me, what was the biggest motivator when we looked at the whole process was the impact generated by the technology itself. For example, I'll just give you an example of, you have the whole patient history recorded on the computer, on the digital system. And that entire process initially feels like burdensome for the person doing that work. Because instead of writing on the register, you are typing everything. If you're not used to it, it's going to take some time. But then the patient comes for follow-up. you just hit a click, everything is there, right? So I feel like, oh wow,
rewarding.
Exactly. So that's the kind of reward you see that in your experience, and then you start like loving it. It just helps. It is not, again, like what we need to think about. It's not about replacing paper by computers. It is about how we use technology to improve care delivery. So in terms of scale, to your question, I think we need to work on infrastructure, which is improving gradually. Government needs to prioritize. We already have a strategy in place, and there needs to be a steady, stable government with the vision that we are going to be doing this within a certain period of time. It'll get done. You'll get a lot of support.
Change is a gradual process. There will be resistance, but there are also rewards.
Oh, yes.
But one step at a time.
One step at a time, exactly.
Dr. Koloni, it's always so good to have a conversation with you. Thank you so much for being on NTV World Insight.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me here. Always good to talk to you. So thank you.
And thank you too for watching our program. Do join us on our social media pages and also visit our official website nepaltelevision.com for more news and information. Until next time. A reflection of biodiversity along with nature and culture. A view of the silver-like shining mountain range right before your eyes. A chronicle of the rituals and traditions of Kirati people from creation to civilization and the present day. A unique tourist trail in Nepal filled with natural beauty, the Mundum Trail. Mundum Trail is a uniquely identified trekking route in Nepal filled with natural beauty. The trail is an excellent tourist destination for trekkers who want to enjoy the culture and traditions of various ethnic groups while observing natural beauty. The Mundum Trail was identified as a new trekking route with the aim of promoting tourism in Khotang, Bhojpur, Sangkhwa Sabha and Solukhumbu regions of eastern Nepal. The specialty of the Mundum Trail is trekking while observing the tall mountain ranges, high hills and beautiful views of the flat plains of Tarai. Since it is connected to the culture of the Kirati people, this trail is named after the Mundum rites of Kirat Rais. Various structures reflecting the culture and traditions of the Kirat Rais built around the trail. Large grassy meadows and yaks and sheep herds raised by local herdsmen highlight the speciality of the trek. Dishes reflecting the identity of ethnic groups like Kirat Rai, Sherpa, Tamang and others, local organic food produced by herdsmen, various types of vegetation and precious herbs can be found during the Mundum trek. The trail is a total of 107 kilometers long. Both domestic and international visitors say the rivers originating from Mahabharat mountain range, forests covered in rhododendrons, rare and endangered wildlife and plants, and animal husbandry by hard-working farmers captivates their hearts. The Mundum Trail, where one can trek through the hills with the world's highest peak, Mount Everest, at its head, is a precious gift from nature. It's a trek where one can escape the heat of the Tarai, enjoy natural beauty, reveling in the sweet sounds of birds and connecting with endangered plants, making the experience all unique.
As there is heavy snowfall in winter, the number of tourists trekking and playing in the snow along the Mundum Trail witnesses a surge every season. The Mundum Trail is connected to religion, culture, rituals and lifestyle of entire Kirat community. Mundum itself means the Kirat culture, rituals and the daily life of Kirati people or Kirat knowledge. And the concept of Mundum Trail is also about introducing the culture, lifestyle and history of the Kirati people to the world, familiarizing them with the community. The journey along the trail, which spreads through uphills and downhills, offers close-up views of more than 24 beautiful mountain ranges. That includes Nuptse, Everest, Lhotse, Makalu, Kanchenjunga and Kumbhakarna. They all delight every traveler. The Mundum trek starts from Dawa Bhanjang in Diktel, Sakaila Rural Municipality of Khotang and Bhojpur Bazar in Bhojpur. Most tourists start their journey on this trail from Chakhewa Bhanjang in Temki Rural Municipality, Bhojpur. The trek starting from Chakhewa Bhanjang is a gift of biodiversity, culture and nature. The trail is also a tourist area listed among the 100 must-visit destinations selected by the government of Nepal. Temke Dada is an excellent tourist destination near the starting point of the Mundum Trail. It lies on the border of Bhojpur and Khotang. It is located at an altitude of about 3,032 meters above sea level and is a flat plateau on top of a single hill. The history of Temke Dada is also linked to Kirati civilization. Temke Dada is a habitat for various species of trees like jamb, rhododendron and chimal, as well as endangered wildlife such as red panda, ghorol and thar. Various places in Koshi province can be clearly seen from Temke Dada. From here, one can have a panoramic view of dozens of mountain ranges, including the world's highest peak, Mount Everest, Makalu, Kanchenjunga and Gauri Shankar. Apart from that, from Temke Dada, one can watch the sunrise and sunset. And when the weather is clear, one can even see the cities of Sikkim, Darjeeling, Kalimpong, Siliguri in India and cities in Bhutan. The Kirati people perform special worship on full moons of Baisakh. In this area, precious herbs, locally called Chiraito, Majito, Tulo Okhete, Pakhanbed, Nagbeli, Ban Karela, Muse Karela and Satua are found in abundance. Another major attraction of Temke Dada is the rhododendron. During blooming season, the forest in this area becomes vibrant red with fully bloomed flowers. After a hike and exploration of Temke Hill, surrounded by beautiful nature, one reaches Dhotre Deorali in about 6 hours. During the journey to Dhotre, trekkers enjoy nature's embrace, marvel at various rock formations and relish the trek while connecting with the high hills. At Dhotre Deorali, there are arrangements for food and lodging for tourists. Leaving Dhotre and moving forward on the trek, various structures have been built targeting the culture and traditions of Kirati people to attract tourists. The Mundum Trail's construction began with a 35% investment from Koshi provincial government, 35% from Swiss government and 30% from the local government. Along this entire trail, rest stops, drinking water taps and stone platforms have been built for tourists. 15 ponds in the shape of a chindo, which is a traditional Rai vessel reflecting Kirat Rai culture, have also been constructed. This is a place where shamans have walked, a place of tantric power and an extremely scenic area. Mundum is the name of a Kirat scripture. The trail is named after this sacred name. This trail, which integrates various aspects of Kirati civilization, culture, history, and life from Silichung to Mayung and then to Temke, and from Temke to Kualung and Tuachung, proceeds along the ridge of Mahabharat mountain range. Another special beauty of the Mundum Trail is Has Pokhari. Located at an altitude of 3,333 meters above sea level, Has Pokhari is a special destination that should not be missed during the trek. At the edge of Has Pokhari, a statue of Sumnima and Paruhang has been erected. According to Kirat Mundum, Sumnima and Paruhang are the creators of this universe. The gentle fragrance of various species of flowers blooming in the grassy meadows captivates every tourist visiting Has Pokhari. The rhododendrons that bloom in season in the Has Pokhari area make one feel like staying in the vicinity of the pond forever. During their journey to Has Pokhari, travelers can observe at least 16 species of rhododendrons that bloom during the spring season. Another important destination of the Mundum Trail is Mayung Dada. Located in Temke Mayung Rural Municipality of Bhojpur, Mayung Dada is a beautiful place with tourism potential. The journey to Mayung Dada, which is at an altitude of about 3,600 meters above sea level, takes place through the middle of a very smooth meadow. During this journey, any tourist with the melodious sound of music wishes to be immersed in the glory of beautiful nature, even if for a short while. The Mayung area is also a special observation point for horses. The attraction of horses roaming freely under the open sky is another unmissable feature of Mayung Dada. The Mayung area, which is connected to the neighboring district of Khotang, has a balanced climate, not as cold as the Himalayas, nor as hot as the Tarai. The Mayung area is also a habitat for the globally endangered red panda. During the Mayung journey, adorned with biodiversity and nature, one can enjoy the rhododendrons that bloom vibrantly across the hillsides in the spring. One can sit on various mystical hills and move forward with the cool breeze, mountain views, and by cherishing the natural beauty in their heart and soul. The blooming chap, rhododendron and sunakhari flowers in the months of Falgun, Chaitra and Baisakh captivate the hearts of tourists. The ever-changing weather and the view of the mountain range right before the eyes can make one feel a heavenly bliss on earth when one steps on Mayung Dada. From Mayung Dada, most of the hilly districts of eastern Nepal, as well as the high hill plains and villages of Nepal and India, look as if they are in the palm of one's hand, making one want to keep watching. When the crimson rays of early morning sun touch the mountains on the other side, the joy of kissing the heights is immeasurable. From Mayung Dada, one can also view more than 24 beautiful Himalayan peaks. This includes Charpate, Mera Peak, Nuptse, Everest, Lhotse, Lhotse Sar, Makalu, Kanchenjunga and Kumbhakarna. Travelers say is less tiring and also does not give one altitude sickness. The trail located in the Mayung region is considered excellent, given the Laliguras trail of the TMJ region or the Tinjure, Milke, Jaljale area and the Khapta trail of the west. On the Mundum trek, after passing through Chakhewa Bhanjang, Mayung Dada, Has Pokhari, Satobato, Laure Bhir, Rawathap and Salpa Bhanjang, on the fourth day of the journey, one reaches the famous pilgrimage site Salpa Pokhari. Salpa Pokhari is situated at an altitude of 3,400 meters above sea level and is considered by the Kirati people as their ancestral place of origin. Kirati people hold a belief that one must visit Salpapokuri at least once in their lifetime. Hence, during Udholi and Ubholi full moons, many pilgrims visit Salpapokuri, a place filled with religious faith and natural beauty. Salpapokuri, known as the confluence of 4 districts, Khotang, Solukhumbu, Bhojpur and Sankhua Sabha, is a place of natural beauty. Salpapokuri is located in Dobhani village of Salpa Silichung rural municipality in Bhojpur. It can be reached via the Mundum trail passing through Dikdale in Khotang, Lal Kharka and Moyung Dada. However, there are other routes to reach Salpapokuri as well. It is said that Tenzing Norgay Sherpa and Edmund Hillary used the route through Salpapokuri during their first ascent of Mount Everest. Salpapokuri is also a multi-religious center of faith, as apart from Kiratis, various ethnic groups, including Hindus and Buddhists, hold fairs at this place 4 times a year. There is a religious belief that people who are born unable to speak can start speaking after being dipped in the waters of this pond, and childless couples are blessed with children after visiting Salpapokuri. Silichung Dada with Salpapokuri as its base camp is an important destination for tourists trekking the Mundum Trail. Tourists who reach Salpa often make a return trip to the summit of Silichung Dada, which stands at an altitude of 4,100 meters. Specially considered a significant center of religious faith for the Kirati people, from the Silichung peak one can easily view the Himalayan range as well as the flat plains of the Tarai. From Sak, shamans in particular ascend Silichung to gain power and knowledge. The fragrance of the extremely aromatic bhairung, sunpati and other fragrant herbs and flowers found around Silichung makes the stay there even more pleasant. There is a Mundum myth that Kirati people gain power from this area, envisioning it as the place has recently emerged in the tourism world as a top cultural destination. Therefore, developing the Mundum Trail, an exceptional confluence of nature and culture, into a model destination, therefore, developing the Mundum Trail, an exceptional confluence of nature and culture, into a model destination for recreation and study for both domestic and natural beauty lies a deeper reality, a true portrait of life. Here, the geography is visible, but the emotions are heard. Our effort is to bring closer the landscape and sentiments of Rukum West, a region filled with dreams, possibilities and determination. Since the Mid-Hill Highway connected Rukum, it has played a vital role in local development. It has helped market local produce, boosted livelihoods and employment, and promoted the region's stunning nature, languages, arts and culture. Many older residents never imagined a road passing near their homes or ever riding in a vehicle. Now, as cars glide smoothly over these hills and ridges, their joy is unmistakable. As we pass through the villages of Rukum, we encounter countless stories of hope and trust. Signs of development are increasingly visible at the local level. Vehicles now travel on blacktop roads, and improved access to technology has made rural life more dynamic. Whether it is Sanka in Musikot municipality or Rimna Dobhan in Sani Bheri rural municipality, these communities not only reflect the natural beauty of Rukum West, but also narrate inspiring stories of transformation. Rukum is a district shaped by a decade-long armed conflict. During those years, it stood at the center of national attention. Yet after the peace process, its development trajectory has steadily risen. Improvements in roads, political awareness, education, and healthcare have all played a crucial role in this progress. In the remote terrains, the natural beauty is inseparable from the faces of the people who live here. Expressions of longing, eyes searching for their children, and the countless struggles behind their simple dreams all resonate deeply. Despite stories of positive change, the migration of many young people abroad remains a pressing concern. A district rich in nature and culture now faces the challenge of a shrinking youth population, which limits its potential for prosperity. Traveling this road, crossing rivers, climbing hills, and enjoying the northern Himalayan views is a unique experience. From the lowlands of Jaurjahari, along the banks of Bheri River, through Ramni Dobhan to the district headquarters in Khalanga, and onward through the scenic settlement of Sanka into eastern Rukum, the journey is breathtaking. Yet, this land is still searching for its youth so that its beauty can be tied to prosperity. Here in this rugged terrain, the reality is visible and the emotions you hear are true.
Thailand's top court has dissolved parliament after the ruling coalition lost its majority when the largest party withdrew support for Prime Minister Anutin Charnvirakul. Anutin, who became Thailand's third Prime Minister since August 2023, cited challenges such as a border dispute with Cambodia and deadly floods last month as reasons for calling new elections. The move sets the stage for national elections to be held within the next 45 to 60 days. Previous Thai Prime Ministers, including Paetongtarn Shinawatra and Srettha Thavisin, were removed from office by court rulings, highlighting the country's recent political instability. Anutin had indicated shortly after taking office that he would dissolve parliament in January, fulfilling that promise amid ongoing governance challenges. Moscow travelers stuck airport. Hundreds of travelers were stranded at Moscow's Sheremetyevo International Airport, Russia's busiest air hub, after an overnight Ukrainian drone attack forced a temporary shutdown. Russian authorities said nearly 300 drones were shot down, marking Ukraine's largest attempted strike in the 4-year war. The disruption led all 4 major Moscow airports to suspend operations, causing widespread cancellations, delays, and flight diversions. Passengers waited for hours as airlines struggled to reorganize schedules and restore normal service. The attack comes amid escalating long-range drone warfare, which has increasingly affected civilian infrastructure across both Russia and Ukraine. The World Health Organization (WHO) has released a new analysis confirming that vaccines do not cause autism, directly countering misinformation circulating in the United States. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said this is the 4th comprehensive review following earlier assessments in 2002, 2004, and 2012.
Today, WHO is publishing a new analysis by the Global Advisory Committee on Vaccine Safety that has found, based on available evidence, no causal link between vaccines and autism.
Ghebreyesus emphasized that all previous reviews reached the same conclusion: vaccines are safe and not linked to autism. The renewed statement comes as several countries grapple with rising vaccine hesitancy fueled by false claims online. Autism vaccine myths gained widespread global attention in the late 1990s after a now discredited study, which has since been retracted, falsely suggested a connection. Russian President Vladimir Putin has arrived in Turkmenistan for a major summit that also includes Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. The gas-rich Central Asian nation is hosting an unusually high-profile gathering, bringing several regional powers together for talks. The meeting is expected to focus on cooperation across energy, trade, and security, issues that have gained global importance amid shifting geopolitical alliances. Turkmenistan's government has emphasized the summit as a sign of its growing diplomatic relevance on the world stage. Turkmenistan, located between Iran and Afghanistan, holds some of the world's largest natural gas reserves, shaping much of its international role. Greek Finance Minister Kyriakos Pierrakakis has been elected president of the Eurogroup, winning against Belgian Finance Minister Vincent van Petegem in the final vote. The 42-year-old will succeed Ireland's Pascal Donohoe, who stepped down in November to take a senior role at the World Bank. Pierrakakis' selection highlights Greece's renewed credibility within the Eurozone after years of financial turmoil. European finance ministers praised the election as a sign of stability and continuity for the economic bloc. Just a decade ago, Greece was facing the possibility of exiting the euro, making Pierrakakis' rise to the Eurogroup presidency specially symbolic. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum defended newly approved tariffs on goods from China and several other countries, saying they are meant to strengthen the national economy rather than create conflict. The legislation backed by Sheinbaum raises import duties on products such as automobiles, textiles, clothing, plastics, and household appliances. Most of the impact is expected to fall on Chinese-made goods, reflecting Mexico's effort to boost local manufacturing. Sheinbaum emphasized that the policy aims to protect domestic industries amid growing global competition. Mexico has been working to balance its close economic links with the United States while managing rising trade tensions with China in sectors like autos and electronics. Time magazine has named the architects of AI as its Person of the Year, spotlighting the US tech leaders driving rapid advances in artificial intelligence. The group includes figures such as Meta's Mark Zuckerberg, AMD CEO Lisa Su, Elon Musk, Nvidia's Jensen Huang, OpenAI's Sam Altman, Google DeepMind chief Demis Hassabis, Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei, and Stanford professor Fei-Fei Li. A Time magazine illustration depicts them towering over a city, symbolizing their outsized influence on technology and society. The announcement reflects how AI has become a central force shaping global economies, politics, and daily life. Time has previously used collective titles for its Person of the Year to highlight broad technological or social transformations. Portugal is experiencing its first general strike since 2013 as the country's two major unions protest a proposed labor code reform bill. Streets in Lisbon were noticeably quiet in the morning, with many residents choosing to stay home instead of commuting to work. Public transport, schools, and some public services reported significant disruptions. Union leaders say the strike aims to pressure the government to withdraw measures they argue could weaken worker protections. Portugal last faced a major nationwide strike during its post-financial crisis austerity period, which sparked widespread public unrest. Germany's economic outlook for 2026 has been downgraded by the Munich-based Institute for Economic Research (IFO), which warned that growth will be even weaker than previously expected. The institute says Germany continues to struggle with sluggish global demand and the impact of US trade policies. After 2 years of recession, the country is now projected to see almost no economic growth in 2025. Economists at IFO note that businesses remain cautious about investment due to ongoing uncertainty in global markets. Germany, Europe's largest economy, has faced persistent industrial slowdowns since the energy and supply chain shocks that began in 2022. Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 carrying 239 passengers and crew from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing vanished from radar on March 8, 2014 in one of aviation's most mysterious incidents. Despite an extensive multinational search covering tens of thousands of square kilometers of ocean, the plane's wreckage has never been fully located, and the reasons for its disappearance remain unclear. Families of the victims, including Jiang Hui, whose mother was on the flight, continue to struggle with uncertainty and grief. Investigators believe the aircraft may have gone off course for unknown reasons, sparking widespread speculation and numerous theories over the years. The disappearance of MH370 remains one of the deadliest and most puzzling commercial aviation incidents in modern history. In Vendôme, central France, workers gathered outside the brand factory in protest after a court ruled for the liquidation of the century-old appliance maker. The decision, which follows months of financial struggles, has sparked anger and disbelief among employees as burning pallets marked the intense demonstration. The closure of the factory is set to lead to the loss of approximately 700 jobs, devastating the local workforce. Brent, once a symbol of French manufacturing, now faces a painful end, leaving workers to grapple with an uncertain future. The situation has raised concerns about the impact of corporate insolvencies on France's industrial sector.
चारैतिर हरियाली नै हरियालीको बीचमा चराचुरुङ्गीहरू बात मार्दै गरेका, हावाले संगीत भर्दै गरेको अनि माटोले आत्मीयता देखाएको यो पावन भूमि हो दक्षिणकाली। काठमाडौँ उपत्यकाबाट 18 किलोमिटरको दूरीमा रहेको दक्षिणकाली हिन्दू अनि बौद्ध धर्मावलम्बीका लागि विशेष ठाउँ हो। हिन्दू धर्मका प्रख्यात गुरु गोरखनाथ र बौद्ध धर्मका प्रख्यात गुरु रिम्पोछे अर्थात् पद्म सम्भवले ध्यान गरेको र सिद्धि प्राप्त गरेको यो विशेष भूमि हो। यो यही भूमि हो जहाँ माता दक्षिणकाली वास गर्नुहुन्छ। त्यसैले त यहाँको हावा र माटोले आकर्षित गर्छ, मधुरता दिन्छ। यो ठाउँमा पाइला टेक्नुले मात्र पनि ऊर्जा प्रदान गर्छ, जीवन सफल भएको आभास हुन्छ। कमलको फूलबाट अलौकिक रूपमा जन्म भएको मानिएका पद्म सम्भव, जसलाई तिब्बती भाषामा गुरु रिम्पोछे भनिन्छ, उनी गुरुले ध्यान गरेर सिद्धि प्राप्त गरेको ठाउँ फर्पिङ दक्षिणकालीमै छ। भनिन्छ बुद्ध धर्मका ज्ञाता पद्म सम्भव तिब्बतमा बुद्ध धर्मको जग बसाल्न जाँदै गर्दा धेरै वर्ष नेपालको फर्पिङमा बस्नुभयो। यो असुरा गुफा हो। गुरु पद्म सम्भवले ध्यान र साधना गरी सिद्धि प्राप्त गरेको ठाउँ। फर्पिङ बजारबाट दायाँ लागि केही उकालो हिँडेपछि गुफा पुग्ने भर्याङ देख्न सकिन्छ। अनगिन्ती सिँढीहरू चढेर गुफा पुगेपछि छुट्टै आनन्द आउँछ। विशाल चट्टानभित्र सानो कोठा छ जहाँ पद्म सम्भवको मूर्ति राखिएको छ र दीप प्रज्वलन गरिएको छ। अनि छेवैमा एक लामा मन्त्र उच्चारण गरी ध्यानमा लीन हुनुहुन्छ। आन्तरिक पर्यटकहरू नदेखिएको यो ठाउँमा विदेशी पर्यटकहरू पनि आउँदा रहेछन्। विशेष गरी चीन, ताइवान, मङ्गोलिया र भुटान लगायतका देशबाट यहाँ भ्रमणका लागि आउने गर्दछन्। यो बौद्ध मार्गीको एक पवित्र तीर्थस्थल हो जहाँको भ्रमण बिना तीर्थाटन अधुरो हुने गर्दछ। यही शिलामा हातका ठ्याक्कै 5 औँलाको डाम छ। स्थानीयका अनुसार यो हातको डाम गुरु पद्म सम्भवका शिष्यको हो। भूलवश हातको डाम रहन गएपछि ती शिष्य पश्चातापमा गएको भनाइ छ। यसै गरी अर्को एउटा भनाइ पनि प्रख्यात छ जसले यो हातको डाम गुरु पद्म सम्भवकै भएको बताउँछ। त्यसैले त यहाँ आउने पर्यटकहरू यहाँ आफ्नो हात राखेर पद्म सम्भवसँग ऊर्जा र आशीर्वाद माग्छन्। इतिहासमा पद्म सम्भवलाई अलौकिक शक्ति मानिन्छ जसले नकारात्मक ऊर्जा सजिलै परास्त गरी न्याय र शान्ति प्रदान गर्ने विश्वास गरिन्छ। यही गुफासँगै गुरु गोरखनाथको पाइला पनि रहेको छ। गुरु पद्म सम्भव ध्यान र साधनाका लागि यता आउनु भएको थाहा पाएर हिन्दू धर्मका प्रख्यात गुरु गोरखनाथ पनि यो ठाउँ केही वर्ष बसी ध्यान गरेर जानु भएको हो भन्ने भनाइ छ। गुफाका सिँढीहरू झर्दै गर्दा शिलामा स्वयं उत्पन्न भएको मानिएको गणेश र सरस्वतीको मूर्ति पनि छ। एउटा सानो कुण्ड अनि त्यसमाथि कमलको फूल, यस्तै स्वरूप बनाएर पद्म सम्भवको गजबको ठूलो मूर्ति राखिएको छ। विभिन्न भाव भङ्गिमामा रहेको पद्म सम्भवको प्रतिमा निकै नै सजीव देखिन्छ। यहाँ बसेर मजाले ध्यान गर्न सकिन्छ। यो ठाउँ अलौकिक शक्तिले भरिएको आभास हुन्छ। जो कोहीको अस्थिर मन पनि यहाँ शान्त बन्न सक्छ। यो असुरा गुफा र फर्पिङमै रहेको याङ्लेश्वर गुफा गुरु पद्म सम्भवले आवत जावतका लागि प्रयोग गर्न गरिएको पनि स्थानीय विश्वास छ। यहाँ पनि पद्म सम्भवको सानो मूर्ति राखिएको छ र दीप प्रज्वलित गरिएको छ। यहाँ रहेको चट्टानको बीचमा टाउको अड्याउन मिल्ने ठाउँ छ, जहाँ टाउको राखेमा आनन्द प्राप्ति हुने स्थानीयको विश्वास छ। यो यही परिसर हो जहाँ शेष नारायणको मन्दिर छ। यो उपत्यकाको 4 नारायण मध्ये एक हो। दिशंखु नारायण, इचंगु नारायण, चांगु नारायण र शेष नारायण काठमाडौँ उपत्यकाका 4 प्रमुख नारायण मन्दिरहरू हुन्। यही मन्दिरको ठिक माथि चट्टानमा विभिन्न आकृतिहरू देख्न पाइन्छ, जसलाई भक्तजनहरू विभिन्न रूप मानेर श्रद्धा गर्छन्। कामधेनु गाईको थुन, गणेश अनि शेषनागको आकृतिका रूपमा देखिने यी स्वरूपहरूमाथि भक्तजनहरूको गहिरो विश्वास छ। यसै मन्दिर प्रवेश स्थलमा एउटा सानो कुण्ड पनि छ, जहाँ ससानादेखि ठूलठूला असला र रङ्गी बिरङ्गी माछाहरू छन्। यहाँ केही जोडी कछुवा पनि छन्। यस कुण्डमा बौद्ध मार्गीहरूले आफ्ना मनोकांक्षा पूरा भएको खुसियालीमा रङ्गी बिरङ्गी माछाहरू छोड्ने गर्दछन्। अनि यिनै माछाहरू हेर्न यहाँ ससाना बालबालिकादेखि ठूलासम्म आउने गर्दछन्। यहाँ आनन्दको अनुभव गर्दै ध्यानमा लीन हुनेहरूको पनि कमी छैन। यहाँको अर्को विशेष भनेको वज्रयोगिनी मन्दिर हो। वज्रयोगिनी एक तान्त्रिक देवी हुनुहुन्छ। वज्रयाना र महायानामा वज्रयोगिनीको स्थान उच्च छ। समृद्ध र सुखी जीवनयापनको मनोकामना राख्दै भक्तजनहरू यहाँ आउने गर्दछन्। साथै ज्ञान प्राप्तिका लागि यस ठाउँको भ्रमण गर्नेहरू पनि धेरै छन्। आशाका दीपहरू बलिरहेका, खुशीका स्वरहरू गुन्जिरहेका यी ठाउँहरू साँच्चै विशिष्ट छन्। यसै विशिष्टताको अर्को नाम हो दक्षिणकाली मन्दिर। यो मन्दिरमा विभिन्न मनोकामना राखेर दर्शन गर्न आउनेहरूको भिड नै लाग्ने गर्दछ। यहाँ विशेष गरी शनिबार, मंगलबार र बिहीबार भिड लाग्ने गर्दछ। दशैंमा यहाँ विशेष पूजा हुने गर्दछ। यहाँ छिमेकी मुलुक भारतबाट पनि दर्शनार्थीहरू आउने गर्छन्। यहाँ आउने भक्तजनका लागि पनि खाजा, नास्ता अनि पूजा सामग्रीका पसलहरू राखिएका छन्। यही मन्दिरको ठिक माथि माताको मन्दिर छ, जुन दक्षिणकालीको माताको हो भनिन्छ।
दक्षिणकाली नगरपालिका आर्थिक रूपमा अलि विपन्न हो, तर सांस्कृतिक ऐतिहासिक थलोको रूपमा चाहिँ दक्षिणकाली नगरपालिका धनी नगरपालिकाको रूपमा पर्छ। उदाहरणको लागि माता दक्षिणकालीको मन्दिर पुर्खौँदेखि चाहिँ दक्षिणकाली माताको आशीर्वाद लिने भक्तजनहरूको प्रशस्त मात्रामा चाहिँ आगमन पाइन्छ। प्राचीन दक्षिणकाली, जहाँ माता दक्षिणकाली पहिला त्यहाँ उहाँको वासस्थान, पछि चाहिँ किम्वदन्ती अनुसार पछि तल सरेको भन्ने खालको जुन छ, त्यो मन्दिर पनि एकदमै अत्यन्त सुन्दर बनिसकेको छ। र असुरा गुफाबाट मास्तिर जाँदाखेरि सिँढी माथिसम्मै जोडिएको छ र त्यहाँ पानीको केही व्यवस्था पनि छ, सबै कुरा व्यवस्था छ र त्यहाँ पनि नहेरी नहुने ठाउँको रूपमा छ। विदेशी पर्यटकहरू अहिले पनि हालसाल पनि आइराख्नु भएको, सधैँभरि आउने बुद्ध मार्गीहरूको पवित्र भूमि, गुरु रुम्बुचेले तपस्या सिद्धि गरेको थलो असुरा गुफादेखि लिएर चाहिँ पवित्र यहाँ चाहिँ बुद्ध मार्गीहरूको मठ मन्दिर भएको कारणले यहाँ हिन्दू मात्र नभइकन बुद्ध मार्गीहरूको पनि प्रशस्त यहाँ सम्भावना छ, आइराख्नु भएको छ। अझ थपेर आउनको लागि पनि यहाँ चाहिँ उहाँहरूलाई बसोबासको लागि बुद्ध मार्गीहरूले वासस्थानको पनि राम्रो व्यवस्था मिलाइराखेको छ। र यहाँ आइसकेपछि असुरा गुफा र धेरै यस्ता चाहिँ मठ मन्दिरहरू, बुद्ध मार्गीहरूको मठ मन्दिरहरू भएको ठाउँ भएको कारणले यहाँहरूको टेलिभिजन मार्फत पनि यो कुरालाई उजागर गरिदिन सक्यो भने पर्यटकहरू अवश्य पनि कहाँ घुमौँ, कहाँ जाँदा राम्रो हुन्छ भन्ने अन्यल भइराखेको बेलामा दक्षिणकाली एउटा चाहिँ पर्यटकको लागि गन्तव्य स्थल हो भन्ने कुरा अलिकति हामी कार्यक्रम मार्फत पनि दिन सक्यौँ भने त्यो बढ्छ।
खासमा दक्षिणकाली मन्दिर यहाँ भन्दा फरक ठाउँमा थियो। पर्पिङको माथि जंगलमा रहेको दक्षिणकाली मन्दिर जानेहरू हराउन थालेपछि त्यस बेलाका राजा प्रताप मल्ललाई दक्षिणकाली माताले आफूलाई हाल रहेको ठाउँमा सारिदिनु भन्ने सपनामा देखाएपछि हालको ठाउँमा मन्दिर बनाइ सारिएको भन्ने कथन छ।
राजा प्रताप मल्लको राज्यकाल भन्दा पनि धेरै पहिला त्यस अवस्थाको मूर्ति फर्पिङ सहर शिखरको घना जङ्गलमा थियो। त्यहाँ मान्छेहरू जान डराउने र हराउने के, मान्छे जस्तै 100 जना गयो कि 1 जना हराउने के। त्यो भएपछि राजा प्रताप मल्ललाई साक्षात् कि दक्षिणकाली देवी सपनामा प्रकट भएर मलाई यो अप्रकाशित मूर्ति थियो त्यतिखेर, मलाई प्रकाशित मूर्तिमा प्राण प्रतिष्ठा गरेर दुई नदीको सङ्गम चौक जस्तै पूर्णावती गङ्गा र उदारवती गङ्गाको बिचमा मलाई विराजमान गर र त्यस अवस्थामा प्रताप मल्लको पालोमा महामारीको भय थियो क्या। त्यो भय पनि निवारण हुन्छ भनेर अनि प्रताप मल्लले दक्षिणकालीको मूर्ति स्थापना गराएको थियो। अब मूर्ति स्थापना गराउँदा पहिला मूर्ति बनाउँदाखेरि त्यो प्राण प्रतिष्ठा गर्दाखेरि त्यस मूर्तिमा प्राण प्रतिष्ठा भएन। त्यो मूर्ति अहिले हनुमान ढोकामा छ। अनि त्यसपछि दोस्रो फेरि प्राण प्रतिष्ठा गरेर गुरु लमकर्ण भट्टले विधिका सारेन, अब जस्तै नरबली सर्प सब बलि सहित प्राण प्रतिष्ठा गरेर यहाँ विराजमान गराएको हो। जस्तै यहाँ नजिकै मुसान पनि छ। अनि देवीको दायाँबाट क्रमशः गणेश, भैरव, ब्रह्मायनी, महेश्वरी, कुमारी, वैष्णवी, बाराई, इन्द्रायणी, चामुण्डा बिचमा दक्षिणकालीमा विराजमान हुनुहुन्छ। यहाँ प्रत्येक चाहिँ अब भिड हुने चाहिँ शनिबार, मङ्गलबार, बिहिबार हो। अब दसैँमा त भन्नै परेन। अनि यहाँ विशेष पूजा चाहिँ वर्षको 2 चोटि हुन्छ, महापूजा। वैशाख बढी 13 रोज र अनि भाद्र कृष्ण अष्टमीमा हुने गर्दछ। अब कोही मान्छेको भाकल पुरा भएर आउँछन्, कोही मेरो भाकल पुरा होस् भनेर आउँछन् हैन। यहाँ अब देश विदेश अर्थात् पूर्व मेचीदेखि पश्चिम महाकालीसम्मको मान्छेहरू आउँछन्। अहिले त यातायातको सुविधा झन् बढी भएको कारण पहिलाभन्दा यहाँ धेरै अब यात्रुहरूको चाप पनि बढी छ। अब दक्षिणकाली आमाले सबैको मनको इच्छा पुरा गरेकोले नै यहाँ मान्छेहरू आउने गर्दछ। एउटा आस्था त हो हाम्रो हैन।
यहाँको अर्को धार्मिक तथा ऐतिहासिक रूपमा प्रख्यात ठाउँ हो कटुवाल दह। झोलुङ्गे पुलबाट यो दह पुग्न सकिन्छ। दह भनिए पनि यो ठाउँ खोला बनेको छ। सम्भवतः यो ठाउँ कुनै समयमा दह भएको र कालान्तरमा खोलामा परिणत भएको हुन सक्छ। यहाँ सङ्कटाको सानो मन्दिर पनि छ। यो दहको जल रातो मच्छिन्द्रनाथको जात्रा सुरुवात गर्न अनिवार्य छ। किंवदन्ती अनुसार भारतको आसामबाट रातो मच्छिन्द्रनाथलाई नेपाल ल्याएपछि सुरुमा यही बिसाएर जल चढाइएको थियो। गर्मीमा शीतलता दिने यो ठाउँ आनन्ददायी छ। यहाँको चिसो हावाले मन शान्त पार्नुका साथै ऊर्जा पनि प्रदान गर्छ। यो गोपालेश्वर मन्दिर हो। यहाँ महादेवको ठूलो शिला रहेको छ। तीनतले प्यागोडा शैलीमा निर्माण भएको यो मन्दिर गोपाल वंशमा निर्माण भएको इतिहासमा उल्लेख छ। यसै मन्दिरमा कृष्णले आफ्नो भान्जाको व्रतबन्ध गरेको पनि विश्वास गरिन्छ। यहाँ रहेको चम्पादेवी डाँडा र भस्मासुर डाँडा पदयात्राका लागि एक आकर्षक गन्तव्य हो। चम्पादेवी काठमाडौँ उपत्यका वरिपरि रहेका अग्ला डाँडाहरूमध्ये तेस्रो अग्लो डाँडा हो। यो घना जंगलले घेरिएको छ र यहाँबाट सुन्दर हिम श्रृङ्खलाहरू देख्न सकिन्छ। प्रकृतिको नजिकमा रही आनन्द लिनका लागि दक्षिणकाली एक उत्कृष्ट गन्तव्य हो। त्यसैले त यहाँ रहेका करिब 200 वटा गुम्बा लगायतमा अध्यात्म तथा ध्यान केन्द्रहरू खोलिएका छन्, जहाँ राष्ट्रिय तथा अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय व्यक्तित्वहरू ध्यानका लागि आउने गर्छन्।
हाम्रो यहाँ लोकल ग्राहकदेखि बाहिरी टुरिस्टहरू, इन्टरनेसनल ग्राहकदेखि सबैजना आउनुहुन्छ। यहाँ चाहिँ नजिक चाहिँ दक्षिणकाली परेको हुनाले र अर्को हाम्रो चाहिँ बुद्धिस्टको चाहिँ पनि ठुलो तीर्थस्थल भएको भएर दुवै सबैजना आउनुहुन्छ। कोही चाहिँ 1-2 दिन पनि बस्छन्, कोही 1 दिन मात्र शुक्रबार प्राय बस्नु भएर शनिबार दर्शन गरेर जानेहरू पनि हुन्छन् भनेदेखि कोही चाहिँ 6-7 दिन बस्ने, कोही 10-15 दिन बस्नेहरू पनि हुन्छन्।
यहाँ घुम्न आउने पर्यटकका लागि खाजा, खाना तथा बास बस्न होमस्टे तथा होटलहरू पनि रहेका छन्। ठुलठुला रिजोर्टदेखि ससाना खाजा पसलहरू रहेकाले यो ठाउँ पर्यटकका लागि सहज छ।
मेरो लगभग 1 वर्ष जति भयो। सधैँ आइन्छ। अब यसो कहिलेकाहीँ यताउता काम पर्यो भने बाहिर हिँडिन्छ, नत्र त प्राय यहीँ हो सधैँ। यहाँ अब शनिबार र पब्लिक होलिडेमा अलिअलि हो, नत्र अरू बार यस्तै नर्मल 500-700 200-400 जे होस् सर्भाइभ हुनलाई भइरहेछ, टाइम पास भइरहेछ। आफ्नै घर नजिक पनि भयो, आफ्नै ठाउँमा केही गरेर खान पनि पाइयो नि त।
दक्षिणकाली नास्पाती र लप्सीका लागि विशेष प्रख्यात छ। दक्षिणकालीको नासपाती र लप्सी भन्ने बित्तिकै जो कोहीको पनि मुख रसाउँछ। यहाँका खेत बारीहरूमा नासपाती र लप्सीका रुखहरूले घर बनाएका छन्। एक समान ठडिएका यी रुखहरूमा रहरलाग्दो पाराले नासपाती फलिरहेका छन् अनि लप्सी पनि। यी लप्सीको यहाँ मिठो क्यान्डी बन्ने गर्छ। केही अमिलो अनि केही गुलियो हुने यी क्यान्डीले धेरैको मुख मिठो बनाएको छ।
लौसी हामीले बोटमै किन्छौँ, बोटै ल्याएर खेताल लगाएर उ गर्छौँ होइन। अरू यही सामान बनाउने हो। पहिला लौसी झार्ने सिजनमा यस्तो हुन्छ, हामीले कात्तिकको लास्टदेखि सुरु गर्छौँ। कात्तिकको लास्टदेखि पुससम्म। त्योभन्दा अगाडि अलिकति गुदीभरि आउँदैन होइन। त्यो बेला सुरु गरेपछि तल उसिन्ने ताख्ने काम नै भइरहेको हुन्छ, यहाँ काम नै भइरहेको हुन्छ। दार्जिलिङ पनि जान्छ अहिले चाहिँ प्राय सर्लाहीतिर, अनि पोखरा बढी, अनि काठमाडौँ बढी। काठमाडौँ अनि मेरो यही लोकल बजारमा पनि रहेछ। म आफै किन्छु नासपातीहरू नि, अनि प्राय अलिक ठुला छानेर काठमाडौँ नै बेच्छौँ हामी। काठमाडौँमा अलिक ठुला बेच्छ, अनि तराईतिर इन्डियातिर चाहिँ अलिक ठिक यत्र साइजको पठाउँछौँ। हामी 6 जना छौँ। पहिला त 8-9 जनै छौँ, बच्चाहरू छोरीहरू व्यवहार गयो। अहिले राम्रै छ।
यहाँ धान रोप्दै गरेका किसानहरू भेटिन्छन्, जिम्बु लाउँदै गरेका किसानहरू पनि भेटिन्छन्। जहाँ हेरे पनि हरियाली देखिने यो ठाउँ धार्मिक, ऐतिहासिक र प्राकृतिक सम्पदाले भरिपूर्ण छ। दक्षिणकाली काठमाडौँको नजिकमा रहेको एक आकर्षक पर्यटकीय गन्तव्य हो। प्रकृतिसँग आलिङ्गनका लागि र आध्यात्मिक शान्तिको खोजीका लागि यो ठाउँ एक उपयुक्त गन्तव्य हो। व्यस्त जीवनशैली र कोलाहलबाट मनको शान्ति प्राप्तिका लागि ध्यान तथा साधनामा लीन हुन यो ठाउँ उत्कृष्ट छ।
It's early in the morning at the Three Hills village at the wildlife reserve area known as Burunge at Babati district in Manyara region. Mama Simba starts her new busy day with her daily responsibilities. This is a tradition which she carries day by day throughout the week from Monday to Friday. After preparing breakfast for the children, Mama Simba walks the children to school. The school is about half a kilometer from their home. The availability of the community living at this area has managed to create the cohabitation, interaction between wildlife and humans. Mdori Primary School is one of the schools that have benefited with various development projects, of which are a product of tourism revenue at the Burunge area. Not only within the education sector, such as schools alone are benefiting from the tourism at the community living within the wildlife reserve area at Burunge, but also health sector, of which both sectors cater social services. Mama Simba is one of the main beneficiaries of the tourism activities within the area and the sector as a whole, by being provided with entrepreneurial skills, not only to her personally, but other women within her community. All these efforts have been delivered by the investors who had rented the touristic areas within the wildlife reserved area at Burunge, so as to make sure that the community within the area do benefit through the investment.
I've benefited a lot, I can say, through tourism as a whole. First, I've been able to get an entrepreneurial education, and this has helped me in business management. We are taught something called value chain. The value chain is where it starts and where it ends. So we have been able to get that education, and this has helped me a lot on the business side. I've learned how to do business, what communication skills to use, and when doing business, there is business competition, and how to survive business competition. For example, I'm doing this type of business and there's someone else doing the same business. How should I do it so that I can attract more customers and be different from others? I've been able to learn various methods to be able to do that. Burundi has investors such as Chemchem, Kibo, and many more investors in the wildlife area. I got most of the wildlife knowledge through them. That education has helped me in good governance studies. We have been taught that if you see an animal, you should not think of meat but value in terms of money. We have benefited through our handicrafted products, and we need to protect our forest, because if our forest is invaded and trees used for handmade products are cut down, we would not have other ways to make an income out of handmade products.
Investment of various business activities within Burunge area has helped out in charting ways for the employment market, especially to youth and local traditional groups in entertainment and creativity. Mama Simba is one of the group member and a leader of the traditional dance group and arts known as Chemchem. And this involves the Maasai and Wambungwe, who are the natives within the area. In order to make sure that the environment of the natural habitat and wildlife, that is flora and fauna, to spearhead sustainability to the community and the wildlife to the present and future generation, the Tanzania Wildlife Management Authority Tower have put much efforts and emphasis in offering educational in environmental conservation in collaboration with the Wildlife Management Area WMA, the tourism sector stakeholders, together with the community around the area.
We educate. This education is divided into 3 parts. conservation education, education on how to deal with wildlife animal, and we also cater for environmental education. In this community, we are successful by a larger percentage because we provide education in institutions like schools, but also in villages. If you look at this area, it has been taken care of in a larger percentage and is conducive for conservation, investment activities including phototourism and hunting tourism, of which leads to adding income from conservation activities. We can measure that income by the year 2022. They have managed to collect 2 billion shillings, so this is a profit that goes back to the villages in order to continue doing conservation activities including wildlife and environmental protection. But the most important thing we offer in these areas, we have said, is sustainable conservation. There is a positive impact that comes from conservation through investment in conservation areas, tourism activities, hence continuation on a larger scale in tourism activities, and we get a lot of tourists.
The Burunge community, in collaboration with Wildlife Management Area WMA, has been able to introduce wildlife and human protection by providing employment to women within the community as game rangers. The game rangers do patrol within 24 hours so as to ensure the tight security, hence all illegal conduct within the managed and conserved area for wildlife is prevented, and at the same time, the wildlife animals do not invade the human area and destroy their crops and livestock.
This work has given me tremendous success. I've been able to educate my child, build a house, and doing various social activities. I advise my fellow women to do this work, to love it, and to do it with confidence. We help the community in protecting of their properties. For example, we do patrol work, we protect the crops and help people chasing away wild animals that destroy their properties. Secondly, we are protecting against poaching in this area of Burunge Wildlife Management. We are assisted by villagers in getting various information to prevent poaching. We do follow-ups on the information, and when we are satisfied with our investigation, we arrest the poachers and take them to the law enforcement agencies. I advise fellow women to love this work, appreciate it, and do it wholeheartedly.
Indeed, the Wildlife Game Reserve community at Burunge has been the best example for sustainable tourism and the best practice in environmental conservation, hence sustainable tourism, and at the same time empowering women. The participation and involvement of the community in environmental and wildlife conservation has been the game-changer spirit in ensuring the illegal conducts like poaching, wildlife trafficking, environmental and agricultural crop destruction is put to an end. The community at large has been able to benefit and access social welfare such as good schools, health centers, and economical boost through the tourism sector. Sustainable tourism for present and future generation. Our heritage, your heritage.
Dailek, in Karnali province, is a geographically remote district, yet rich with untapped potential for tourism. Stepping into Dai Lake, celebrated as a treasure trove of Khas art, culture and heritage, brings a unique sense of joy. Journey begins amid its natural beauty, leading us toward Mahabu Rural Municipality. As we leave the mid-hill highway, the terrain becomes challenging, with hilly, muddy roads demanding patience and skill. Long lines of vehicles crawl carefully along the cliffs, reflecting both the difficulty of the route and the enduring devotion of Mahabu Dham. Many travelers choose to continue on foot, advancing step by step toward their destination. Passing through Channa, Dasarathi, Okharbans, Bhavsaini, Noli, and Unipata, pilgrims ascend the slopes toward Lisne before finally reaching Mahabu Patan. Pilgrims from Dai Lake and nearby districts often arrive late at night, having begun their journey the previous day. The path to Mahabu Dham is thrilling, adventurous, and breathtaking, made even more dramatic by the steady rain, drifting fog, and steep inclines. Yet the journey itself feels uniquely rewarding. Mahabu Lake or Mahabu Dham, located within Mahabu Rural Municipality, is a remarkable place of natural beauty, religious significance, and cultural heritage. Situated at an altitude of 4,200 meters, the area is adorned with emerald lakes, grazing flocks of sheep and goats, and a sky that dances with Himalayan mist. Every year, during Janai Purnima, a grand fair is held here, drawing thousands of devotees from across the region. Mahabu Dham's spiritual importance is deeply rooted in the ancient worship of Lord Shiva, revered here as the origin site. From Mahabu Lake, visitors can enjoy magnificent views of Api and Sai Palhimal, and on clear days, even the plains of Bardia. Given its religious importance and natural splendor, Mahabu Dham holds immense potential as a religious tourism destination. Improving the rough, narrow access roads is essential for supporting this growth. Mahabu Dham is more than a pilgrimage site. It is a confluence of culture, history, faith, and nature. To truly appreciate its significance, one must visit Mahabu Lake at least once, immerse oneself in its natural beauty, and experience the serene environment that leaves a lasting impression.
Cabinet expands again as interim government crosses halfway mark. 4 new ministers sworn in. Election Commission sets process to determine proportional representation percentages. Election symbols allotted to parties. US dollar hits an all-time high against Nepali rupee. Indian rupee also falls to an all-time low. Informal workers in Nepal continue to lack social security despite legal mandates. Workers, mostly women, contribute over 40% of GDP. Thailand dissolves parliament amid border clashes with Cambodia. Prime Minister Anutin calls early elections. And final of NPL's second edition set for tomorrow. Sudhir Pashchim and Lumbini race for the title. Hello and namaste. I am Ifrulagi Singlama. And this is NTV News Hour coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours. Now, the news in details. 4 newly appointed ministers took their oath of office and secrecy today. President Ramchandra Paudel administered the oath to the newly appointed ministers amidst a function at the office of the president in Chital Niwas. The new ministers that were sworn in today are Kumar Singh Ingham, Minister for Land Management, Cooperative and Poverty Alleviation, Rajendra Singh Bhandari as Minister for Labour, Employment and Social Security, Madhav Chaulagai as Minister for Forest and Environment, and Shraddha Shrestha as Minister for Women, Children and Senior Citizens. With new ministers inducted in the cabinet today, the number of cabinet members in the current government has reached 14. The government formed after the Gen Z movement of September 8 and 9 was expanded thrice on September 15, September 22 and October 26 before this. The Election Commission has published the final list of political parties participating under the proportional representation system and has allocated election symbols to them. A total of 93 parties had applied for PR participation and none withdrew their applications. Parties must now submit their closed list of PR candidates by 28th of December. Meanwhile, the Commission has formed a committee to determine inclusive representation percentages for Dalit, indigenous nationalities, Khas Arya, Madhesi, Tharu and Muslim groups. The committee will base the calculations on the National Census 2021 and submit its report within 3 days. The election program for the first-past-the-post system will begin from January 20. The US dollar has reached an all-time high against the Nepali rupee according to Nepal Rashtra Bank latest exchange rates. The central bank has set the buying rate at 144.30 rupees and the selling rate at 144.90 rupees per dollar, driven by rising demand for foreign currency. Other major currencies have also strengthened, including the euro, pound and Swiss franc. Asian and Pacific currencies such as the Australian, Canadian and Singapore dollars, along with the Japanese yen and Chinese yuan, also posted gains. The surge comes as the Indian rupee, to which Nepal's currency is pegged, continues to weaken against the US dollar, hitting new record lows on February 12, 2025. Moving on, Nepal's informal economy, dominated by women workers, contributes over 40% to the country's GDP, yet most informal workers still lack legal protections and access to the Social Security Fund. A joint survey by Nepal Rashtra Bank and Tribhuvan University estimates the sector's annual contribution at 2.2 trillion rupees or 42.66% of GDP. Census data shows 84.6% of economically active Nepalese work informally, with women disproportionately represented. An Action Aid Nepal survey of 3,758 women informal workers shows severe exploitation. 90.45% earn below the minimum wage, 53.62% earn less than men for the same work, and 97.90% don't know the legal minimum wage. The findings expose a sharp gap between guaranteed labor rights and the reality for Nepal's informal workers. Thailand has dissolved parliament after nearly a week of fresh clashes along its border with Cambodia, with a general election to be called within 45 to 60 days. In a royal decree published today, Prime Minister Anutin cited the deadly border dispute among other challenges his minority government has struggled to contain since it took office 3 months ago. Anutin, a business tycoon, is Thailand's third prime minister since August 2023. When he took power in September, he said he would dissolve parliament by the end of January. However, now facing an imminent vote of no confidence, Anutin brought the election forward. Anutin and his Bhumjaitai party were heavily criticized for their handling of serious flooding in southern Thailand last month, which left at least 176 people dead. The House's dissolution comes during renewed fighting with Cambodia, which has killed at least 20 people and displaced hundreds of thousands. Now, the final match of the ongoing Nepal Premier League NPL second season has been set for tomorrow. Defending runners-up Sudar Pashchim Royals and Lumbini Lions are taking on in the final to be held at 3:30 p.m. at Kirtipur-based TU International Cricket Ground. Sudar Pashchim has come closer to the title, defeating Biratnagar by 77 runs in the first qualifier. Likewise, Lumbini has secured its place for the final, beating Biratnagar by 40 runs in the second qualifier. Biratnagar, which suffered a defeat by Sudar Pashchim in the first qualifier, got a chance to play second qualifier. Sudar Pashchim has lost the last NPL's final to Janakpur Bolts by 5 wickets. Lumbini was ousted from the league phase in the previous edition of the franchise tournament. The NPL title winner will bag a cash prize of rupees 11 million, while the runners-up will get rupees 5.1 million. The third winner is entitled to receive rupees 2.5 million and fourth rupees 1.5 million. 8 teams had participated in the NPL tournament hosted by the Cricket Association of Nepal. The NPL's second edition this time had kicked off on 17 November 2025. Nepal's informal economy, driven mostly by women, powers over 40% of the country's GDP. Yet most informal workers still lack legal protection and remain outside the Social Security Fund. This and more on our issue of the day after the break. This is NTV World News Hour. Welcome back. Nepal's women-driven informal economy powers more than 40% of the nation's GDP, yet the workers sustaining it remain largely unprotected and exploited. Bijeta Bhandari brings more.
Informal economy workers in Nepal were legally mandated to be included in the Social Security Fund. But for most, and especially women, this promise remains out of reach. Informal economy workers include those not included in government data and earning a living by working in non-organized sectors like domestic help, agriculture, construction, waste management, among others. Across Nepal, the backbone of the informal economy is held up by women. Nepal's informal economy is estimated to contribute about 2.2 trillion rupees annually, roughly 42.66% of the country's total GDP, as per the independent data published in the joint survey conducted by Nepal Rashtra Bank and Central Department of Economics at the Tribhuvan University. According to the latest census, 65.5% of the population aged above 10 is economically active, and of this group, 84.6% are engaged in informal labor. Among the economically active, 72% of men are active in the labor force, while 60.4% of women are active. Women are disproportionately present in informal work. A household survey conducted by Action Aid Nepal covering 3,758 women informal workers reveals deep-seated inequalities. In that survey, 6.26% of women reported not receiving the wages they were promised, and 90.45% said they were paid less than the legal minimum wage. More than 53.62% said they earned less than men for the same work, and 97.90% did not know what the legal minimum wage even was.
काम चाहिँ म निर्माणमा काम गर्छु, यस्तै घरको काम गर्छु म, अनि हामी जोखिममा पर्छौं है, धेरै जसो हामी जोखिममै पर्छौं कि मेरो चाहना चाहिँ के भने अब काम गर्दाखेरि हाम्रो जतिखेर नि अब सिलमन्टीको काम गर्छौं हैन हामीले अब हामीलाई त पन्जा चाहिन्छ हैन, पन्जा चाहिन्छ, जुत्ता चाहिन्छ, टाउकोमा चोट लाग्छ, हेलमेट पनि चाहिन्छ हामीलाई, अनि त्यसको उपचारको लागि हामीलाई खर्च चाहिन्छ। अब कहाँबाट मिलाइदिनुहुन्छ अब हैन, नगरपालिकाबाट मिलाउँछ कि अब कताबाट मिलाउँछ? हामीलाई त दुर्घटनामा परेको, चोट पटक लागेको, अब हामीलाई त चाहियो नि त, अब बालबच्चा छ हैन, तिनीहरुलाई पनि पाल्न पर्यो।
Ensuring fair wages, legal awareness and social security for informal women workers is not just a matter of justice. With over 40% of GDP tied to informal labor, protecting these workers would secure livelihoods, reduce inequality, and unlock the full potential of the nation's workforce. It is high time the government enforced mandatory implementation of the Social Security Scheme for the informal economy workers. Bijeta Bhandari with camera person Rasila Shrestha reporting for NTV World.
Every day, millions of people wake up to go to work without contracts, protections, or guarantees. This is the world of the informal or the shadow economy. It's been a silent backbone of global labor. Sarah Sapsanamarai brings to you what the numbers say.
According to International Labour Organization, 6 in every 10 workers worldwide operate in informal jobs. These are workers without legal protections, social security, or stable contracts. The divide between countries is striking. In low-income nations, the informal sector dominates, with an overwhelming 88.5% of workers operating outside the formal economy. In contrast, high-income countries have much lower levels, usually below 14%. Women also make up a higher share of informal workers globally, reflecting persistent gaps in opportunity, access, and economic security. Across different countries, the variations are dramatic. In high-income countries, informal work stays relatively low. The US sits at 5%, Canada at 4.5%, France at 6.7%, and Italy at 7.8%. But in emerging and developing economies, the numbers rise sharply. South Africa reports 26%, Brazil 21%, China 20%, and India 26%. In Pakistan, informal work reaches 35%, while Russia and Japan stand at 13.1% and 6.7%. Some countries experience extremely high levels. The Democratic Republic of Congo has 42%, Sudan 34%, and Sierra Leone reaches an astonishing 65%.
As data reveals deep exploitation in Nepal's informal sector, we asked people what problems do informal workers encounter and what solutions are needed. Let's take a look.
My महिलाहरूको त ज्यालामा समस्या छ, तर समान ज्याला हुनुपर्छ। पुरुषको उता बढी दिन्छ अनि महिलाको कम दिन्छ, त्यही समस्या छ। अनि उसको समान ज्याला दिनुपर्छ। अर्को छ काम गर्ने स्थलमा महिलालाई दुर्व्यवहार गर्छ, त्यसको अनुचित गर्नु दिनुपर्छ।
काम गर्दा श्रमिक एउटा श्रमिक पनि हो र एउटा विपन्न घरको महिला भएको कारणले काम गर्ने पनि 4 वर्ष पुगिसक्यो, काम गरेको हामी पैसा पनि पाएको छैनौँ। हामीसँग हाजिरी कार्ड नभएको कारणले हामीले मुद्दा पनि हाल्न सकिरहेको छैनौँ। काम नगरेपछि कहाँबाट हामीलाई पैसा आउँछ? बालबच्चालाई स्कुल पढाउनु पर्छ, कपी कलम किन्नुपर्छ। स्थानीय सरकारले कि काम गर्दाखेरि त्यहाँनिर अनुगमन जानु पर्यो, सोधपुछ गर्नु पर्यो, यहाँको अवस्था कस्तो छ भनेर काम गर्ने श्रमिकलाई सोध दिनु पर्यो। खाने पानी राम्रो छ कि, शौचालय छ कि छैन भनेर यहाँ ठेकदारहरूले बोली वचन कस्तो लगाइरहेछन्।
म निर्माणमा काम गर्ने हो, दैनिक ज्यालादारी गर्ने। म चाहिँ डोटीबाट आएको हुँ। अहिले हाम्रो यसरी सम्मेलन भनेर आएका थियौँ। यहाँ हाम्रो खास समस्या भनेको के छ भनेपछि समस्या चाहिँ धेरै खालका छन्, तर समस्या अब समान कामको समान ज्याला पनि छैन। त्यसको लागि कानुनमा लेखिया छ, तर हामीले पाएका छैनौँ। त्यसको लागि सरकारले कानुनलाई कार्यान्वयन गरिकन कार्यान्वयन गरेर अनि जवाबदारी हुनु पर्यो। नभएको कारणले सायद हामीलाई लाग्छ कि हामीले अहिलेसम्म समान कामको समान ज्याला पाएको छैन।
र चोटपटक लाग्दा हामीलाई उपचार खर्च पनि त्यस्तो छैन। त्यो गर्दा बिमा गरिदिएको भए झनै राम्रो। र हाम्रो के अरे रेगुलर रोजगार भए झनै राम्रो। हाजिर कार्ड हुनु पर्यो। त्यसो हामीलाई अलिक गरिबलाई नभनिदिनु पर्यो भनेर त्यही चाहना छ मेरो।
Halfway into its tenure, Nepal's interim government has reshuffled its cabinet for the 4th time, now swelling to 14 ministers. A surprising move for an administration that emerged from an anti-corruption wave. This is our cover story after the break. Welcome back. Nepal's interim government, already halfway through its tenure before transferring power to an elected administration, has once again expanded its cabinet. 4 new ministers have been inducted in the existing cabinet, taking the number of members to 14. This is the 4th time the cabinet has been reshuffled to the government that was born out of anti-corruption movement in the country. Before this, the government was expanded on September 15, September 22 and October 26. The new ministers that were sworn in today are Kumar Singh Ingam, Minister for Land Management Cooperative and Poverty Elevation; Rajendra Singh Bhandari as Minister for Labour, Employment and Social Security; Madhav Chaulagai as Minister for Forest and Environment; and Shraddha Shrestha as Minister for Women, Children and Senior Citizens. President Ramchandra Paudel administered the oath to the newly appointed ministers amidst a function at the office of the President in Seetal Niwas. Earlier, I spoke with Gen Z activist Majid Ansari to get his perspective on the timing of the cabinet expansion, asking why the government chose this movement to reshuffle key positions and what it signals for the political landscape moving forward. Let's take a look. Now, with the cabinet now expanded for the 4th time, how do you view these repeated reshuffles? Do they strengthen or dilute the spirit of the movement?
I see it as a very ordinary incident of a state wants to get doing. The government expansion and appointment of minister is one of the essential for handling this crisis with caution. This needed to be done earlier, but government delayed it for around 3 months. I don't know the reason behind it. And still, there are 2 ministries which are still vacant.
Right.
Still under the leadership of Prime Minister. 2 sensitive ministries. One is Foreign Ministry and another is Defense Ministry. However, a government led by a woman in the cabinet of 14 ministers, there are only 3 ministers. There are only 3 women ministers. It has not been able to include any of the Muslims within the cabinet. You cannot see any Haru face within the cabinet. So it lacks to a certain extent the spirit of inclusive governance that we were seeking when we were on the street.
This is the interim government which has, since its first day in office, has said it will hand over power to the elected government and with repeated expansion of the cabinet. So don't you think that the government is drifting away from its key mandates? Or how is it?
I think focusing too much attention to the assurance of election is what there is problem within the government. Government, in the name of assurance of election, is letting many abuse of power or many instances of corruption go away from the hands of the law or from the hands of the law enforcement agencies. What we expect is participation within the government of the Gen Zs. It does not necessarily require appointment of ministers. What we need is advisory councils. What we need is prompt grievances settlement mechanism. What we need is reform in bureaucracy.
Okay.
What we need is prompt action against those who are allegedly involved in corruption-related acts. So overall, what we say is those justifications which were made on the basis of regulations made by the then ministers, promulgated by the Council of Ministers, those needs to be reviewed by the Council of Ministers. They need to be revised, they need to be amended.
As the government expands its cabinet, questions about timing and intent resonate with a growing Gen Z push for accountability and youth-led change within Nepal's political parties. Earlier, Ansari discussed why the cabinet reshuffle is happening now, while in Kathmandu, CP and UML supporters are demanding leadership, renewal and transparent, inclusive governments ahead of the party's 11th General Convention. As the party prepares for its 11th General Convention beginning tomorrow in Sallakhari, Bhaktapur, a faction aligned with General Secretary Ishwar Pokhrel has pushed leadership change to the top of the agenda. UML Vice Chair Surendra Pandey, speaking at the event, said the trend of one-person domination must end, noting that internal rules prohibit a single leader from serving more than 2 terms, a provision repeatedly violated in the past. Speakers also emphasized the need to end manipulation, internal bargains and misinformation campaigns that allowed centralized control. They proposed that at least 20% of the new Central Committee be composed of youth representatives. Now, moving on, in Dhading, a district in central Nepal, illegal sand mining and the heavy use of machinery in the Trishuli River have been increasing in recent times. Along the Nagdunga-Mugling Road section, rivers and nearby streams are being exploited under the pretext of riverbed improvement. Local residents and environmental observers say these activities are carried out with little oversight, and authorities have shown minimal concern for the long-term impact on the river ecosystem. Communities have reported increased erosion, disturbance to aquatic life and rising risks of flooding due to the unchecked extraction of sand and gravel. In Nepal's central western hills, Tansen has taken a crucial step to strengthen local economy, contributing country's economy as well. It has now promised ensuring market access for industries based on agriculture, livestock and tourism. The program is growth-oriented entrepreneurship and employment promotion program aimed at supporting micro and small enterprises. A report by Rojana Rai.
In Nepal's central western hills, Tansen municipality, a historic hill station, is taking a bold step to strengthen Nepal's local economy. A new initiative is now ensuring market access for industries based on agriculture and tourism. The municipality has launched the Growth-Oriented Entrepreneurship and Employment Promotion Program, aimed at supporting micro and small enterprises. With the financial backing and technical guidance from Tansen municipality and stakeholders, this program plans to enhance 30 local enterprises, boosting their contribution to the region's economic growth. The initiative spans all 14 wards of the municipality, focusing on enterprises rooted in agriculture and livestock, herbal and forest product, tourism, traditional craft like Dhaka and Korwa, and service-oriented businesses. To make this possible, the municipality has prepared necessary laws, regulations, and implementation of guidelines. Tansen municipality has allocated 5 million rupees to support this employment promotion program, providing a solid foundation for local enterprises to grow, innovate, and connect the broader market. With a strategic investment, technical support, and a vision for growth, Tansen municipality is paving the way for a stronger, more self-reliant local economy where local talent and enterprise can thrive on a national and global stage.
International news coming up next. For now, a quick recap of the headlines. Cabinet expanded again as interim government crosses halfway mark. 4 new ministers sworn in. Election Commission sets process to determine proportional representation percentages. Election symbols allotted to parties. US dollar hits an all-time high against Nepali rupee. Indian rupee also falls to an all-time low. Informal workers in Nepal continue to lack social security despite legal mandates. Workers, mostly women, contribute over 40% of GDP. Thailand dissolves parliament amid border clashes. With Cambodia, Prime Minister Aung calls early election. And final of NPL's second edition set for tomorrow. Sudhir Pashchim and Lumbini race for the title. US President Donald Trump's proposed peace plan for Gaza is facing significant hurdles as both Israel and Hamas confront difficult strategic choices. The plan, aimed at resolving the long-running Israeli-Palestinian conflict, has struggled to move forward due to deep-seated mistrust between the parties and skepticism from regional stakeholders. Israeli officials have raised security concerns while Hamas leaders have rejected elements of the proposal that they see as undermining Palestinian sovereignty. International actors, including the United States, Egypt, and Qatar, continue to monitor developments, but progress remains slow. Analysts warn that without significant incentives or guarantees, the peace plan risks remaining largely symbolic rather than a pathway to a lasting settlement. The World Health Organization, WHO, has released a new analysis confirming that vaccines do not cause autism, directly countering misinformation circulating in the United States. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said this is the 4th comprehensive review following earlier assessments in 2002, 2004 and 2012.
Today, WHO is publishing a new analysis by the Global Advisory Committee on Vaccine Safety that has found, based on available evidence, no causal link between vaccines and autism. It looked at 31 studies in multiple countries over 15 years relating to vaccines containing thimerosal, and aluminum adjuvants, and the association between vaccines and autism in general. The committee concluded that the evidence shows no link between vaccines and autism, including vaccines containing aluminum or thimerosal. The 4th such review of the evidence, following similar reviews in 2002, 2004, and 2012, all reached the same conclusion. Vaccines do not cause autism. 25 years, under 5 mortality has dropped by more than half, from 11 million deaths a year to 4.8 million. And vaccines are the major reason for that. Vaccines are among the most powerful, transformative inventions in the history of humankind. Vaccines save lives from about 30 different diseases, including measles, cervical cancer, malaria, and more. Like all medical products, vaccines can cause side effects, which WHO monitors, but autism is not a side effect of vaccines. In 1998, a study was published in The Lancet that purported to show a link between vaccines and autism spectrum disorders. The study was...
Cyclone Senya, which struck North Sumatra on 25th of November, has caused widespread destruction in the forest of Botang Toru, home to the critically endangered Tapanuli orangutans. Conservationists say the storm may have killed several of the world's rarest apes. Humanitarian teams discovered the carcass of an orangutan particularly buried in mud and logs in Pulau Pakat village, central Tapanuli district. The discovery has heightened fears that some animals were unable to escape the cyclone's floods and landslides. The Tapanuli orangutan, discovered in 2017, is the rarest of the 3 known orangutan species, with fewer than 800 individuals remaining. Malaysia's Aquaria KLCC delighted visitors this week as its annual Scuba Santa show returned, featuring a Santa Claus in full diving gear performing an underwater spectacle. Part of the Aquaria's Christmas festivities, the event attracted large crowds of families and tourists eager to watch Santa distribute gifts and interact with marine life beneath the water. Organizers said the show is designed to combine holiday cheer with an educational message about ocean conservation. The Aquaria KLCC is one of Malaysia's premier marine attractions. We're going for a short break once again. Coming up next is business news.
The US dollar has hit an all-time high against the Nepali rupee, according to the latest rates from Nepal Rashtra Bank, the country's central bank. The central bank fixed the buying rate at 144.30 rupees and the selling rate at 144.90 rupees per US dollar, reflecting rising demand for foreign currency in Nepal. Other major currencies have also strengthened, with the euro at 169.09 and 169.79 rupees, the UK pound at 193.12 and 193.90 rupees, and the Swiss franc at 181.18 and 181.93 rupees for buying and selling respectively. Asian and Pacific currencies, including the Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, Singapore dollar, Japanese yen and Chinese yuan, also showed notable gains. The rise in foreign exchange rates comes as Indian rupee, against which the Nepali rupee's exchange rate has been pegged with, weakened against the US dollars. With the US dollar rate all-time high record against Nepali rupees, the Indian rupee has also fallen to an all-time low, hitting new lows on February 12, 2025 as selling pressures continue to mount. The lack of a trade deal between the United States and India is seen as a major factor overshadowing the country's otherwise strong economic fundamentals. In Tehata, West Bengal, a woman was seen counting Indian currency notes, reflecting the currency's weakened position. The Reserve Bank of India (RBI) is stepping in with interventions to prevent the rupee from falling further, with a focus on keeping it from dropping below the 90 mark. The ongoing currency struggle remains a key concern for India's economy in the coming months. Germany's economic outlook for 2026 has been downgraded by the Munich-based Institute for Economic Research (IFO), which warned that growth will be even weaker than previously expected. The institute says Germany continues to struggle with sluggish global demand and the impact of US trade policies. After 2 years of recession, the country is now projected to see almost no economic growth in 2025. Economists at IFO note that businesses remain cautious about investment due to ongoing uncertainty in global markets. Germany, Europe's largest economy, has faced persistent industrial slowdowns since the energy and supply chain shocks that began in 2022. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum defended newly approved tariffs on goods from China and several other countries, saying they are meant to strengthen the national economy rather than create conflict. The legislation backed by Sheinbaum raises import duties on products such as automobiles, textiles, clothing, plastics, and household appliances. Most of the impact is expected to fall on Chinese-made goods, reflecting Mexico's effort to boost local manufacturing. Sheinbaum emphasized that the policy aims to protect domestic industries amid growing global competition. Mexico has been working to balance its close economic links with the United States while managing rising trade tensions with China in sectors like autos and electronics. In Vendôme, central France, workers gathered outside the brand factory in protest after a court ruled for the liquidation of the century-old appliance makeup. The decision, which follows months of financial struggles, has sparked anger and disbelief among employees as burning pallets marked the intense demonstration. The closure of the factory is said to lead to the loss of approximately 700 jobs, devastating the local workforce. Brand, once a symbol of French manufacturing, now faces a painful end, leaving workers to grapple with an uncertain future. The situation has raised concerns about the impact of corporate insolvencies on France's industrial sector. Cocoa production in Africa and South America supplies chocolate products that are sold in countries including France, Austria, and the UK. Despite a sharp drop in global cocoa prices in 2025, the cost of chocolate has been rising due to high demand ahead of the festive holiday season. Retailers report that consumers are willing to pay more as holiday shopping for chocolate gifts intensifies. The price increase highlights how seasonal demand can push up retail costs even when raw material prices fall. Chocolate remains one of the world's most popular holiday treats, linking tropical cocoa producing regions with European markets during peak buying periods.
Time for sports update. Nepali boxer Chandrabahadur Thapa Magar made history by winning a bronze medal in the 54 kg weight category in the ongoing IBA Men's World Boxing Championships in Dubai. He was defeated 5-0 by his opponent from Kazakhstan in the semi-final. Thapa has received $75,000 as a prize. Chandra defeated Pastor Masihor Yogune Holi of Indonesia 5-0 in round 32. David Yogorian of Armenia 5-0 in round 16 and Mehdi Kazemi of Iran 5-0 in the quarterfinals to the entry of semifinals. He, however, was defeated 5-0 by Sakin Bibiznov of Kazakhstan in the semifinals, winning the bronze medal. Now, Nepali para-table tennis player Swikrit Nupani has won a silver medal at the Asian Youth Para Games currently underway in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Nupani secured the medal in the under-23 men's singles Class 7 category. In the final match held on Thursday, he was defeated 3-2 by Ren Ting Huang of Chinese Taipei, narrowly missing out on the gold. Nupani won the first set 13-11 and the third set 12-10, but lost the second set 11-6, the fourth set 11-5, and the deciding fifth set 12-10. In the women's category, Nirmala Bhandari represented Nepal in table tennis, though she did not secure a medal. According to National Para-Table Tennis Association Chair Ganesh Kesi, Nepal is participating in table tennis, athletics, taekwondo and weightlifting at the Dubai 2025 Asian Youth Para Games, which will continue until December 14. Now, football's leading fan groups have urged FIFA to halt ticket sales for the 2026 World Cup. They have warned that prices reaching nearly $9,000 for premium final seats are shutting out ordinary supporters. Football supporters Europe condemned the extortionate rates, noting that they are up to 7 times higher than in Qatar 2022. Price lists shared by Germany, England and Croatia show fans attending all matches could pay at least $6,900. The outcry comes as FIFA launches its third ticket sale phase, introducing variable pricing for group stage games without explaining how attractiveness is determined. Now the weather update, first from Nepal and then from around the world. Now, before we wrap up, let's take a look into the headlines once again. Cabinet expanded again as interim government crosses halfway mark. 4 new ministers sworn in. Election Commission sets process to determine proportional representation percentages. Election symbols allotted to parties. US dollar hits an all-time high against Nepali rupee. Indian rupee also falls to an all-time low. Informal workers in Nepal continue to lack social security despite legal mandates. Workers, mostly women, contribute over 40% of GDP. Thailand dissolves parliament amid border clashes with Cambodia. Prime Minister Anutin calls early elections. And final of NPL's second edition set for tomorrow. Sudhir Pashchim and Lumbini race for the title. That is all for the moment. Do join us through our social media and visit us at our official website www.nepaltelevision.com. I am Ifrulagi Singh Lama. Thank you for watching. Good night.